Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy 2026. This is our vision board workshop. And before I dive in and show you how to get the free vision board template and the 200 elements that you can use to fill it, I want to give you a quick rundown. What is this? This is a vision board party, and it is relevant for you whether you are building your community on school or whatever type of business you build or plan to build, right? This is also just for ambitious individuals that want to get clarity on what they might want to build in the future. So no matter what camp you're in, this is relevant for you. This matters because there's this quote, and it says, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. And basically, it means that if you don't know where you're going, you don't know if you're making progress. So every opportunity, everything might look like an opportunity. You try different things. You don't know if you're actually making progress towards what matters to you. And then you do this start, stopping, starting over, buying another thing, testing another thing, committing for a few days to this, a couple weeks to that. And by the end of the year, you pretty much are back at the starting point. So this workshop will take approximately 2 hours and it will be guided, but I believe that it will save you potentially a full year of wandering around trying to make things better, improve yourself, grow things, but at the end just realizing you just did another turn around the sun because you did not have clarity around where you actually want to go. So this workshop should help you to prevent it by helping you forming your vision. And there's two ways in which you can consume it. The first way is that you just grab the templates and the elements, and you just have the workshop running in very, very low mode in the background, just as an accountability container to set aside the time. The other way, and this is what I recommend if you're struggling with vision building, right? The first way is if you already are a great vision builder, you've done this type of work before, and you kind of just need to create a space for it. First version is for you. If you struggle with vision building, if you tried it in the past, it didn't work for you, it never really made sense for you, it felt like a chore, a tedious task that takes time away from what's actually important, then I recommend you actually tune into the guided version. Okay, so now with that said, how does it work? Where do you get the template? Where can you get the guided version? Hi, Lara. Happy New Year. Hello, hey, Erica. That's you. Midnight time, but I wanted to say pop in. Thank you so much for popping in. Also, please, everyone know I will leave the replay up. And also, if I move too quickly through parts in the workshop, just pause and then continue, right? So you have to. Oh. Hi, Jackie. Good morning. Hi, Elaine. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Oh, from Singapore. Oh, yeah, this is, I know who it is. Magla, I think. I hope I didn't butcher this. Created vision board every year and have so many that provide me with a history of everything that become reality in my life and business. That's also so beautiful, right? Whatever we track in this way, we can just look back and see how far we've come, because sometimes we can forget about that in the moment. Progress can feel slow, but when we have this track of data and work we've done, we look back and we see how far we've actually come. Yay! But thank you for popping in and saying hi. Hello. Okay, I completely understand. Thank you so much, Lara. Oh, I will put the link. So there is a physical planner. You guys can get it on Amazon. You actually just have to go to Amazon and put in my name, and it should come up. So if you just go Evelyn Weiss planner, then you'll see the planner on Amazon as well. But like I said, you do not need it to get the full value from the challenge. Hey Ben, Happy New Year! Yes, Magla. Hey, hi Bree. All right, so super excited to have so many of you joining live. All right, so whichever part you choose, right, you just snag the templates and you just mute us very much in the background and you just use it as an accountability container, or you're following along with the guided challenge. You want to head in the community from where you watch to the pinned post, or if you're watching on YouTube, all you want to do is just go to the description of this video, right? And then in the video description and in the pinned post, I have a few resources for you. Okay, so we're just gonna open them up. The first one is the vision board guide. And this is basically what I will use to walk you through this workshop in a structured way. And we will start with the different sections of the vision board. So I'd love for you to just have this guide. As you can see, I put a lot of thought into the structure of it if you want to listen to the guided version. And again, if you've been struggling with vision, building workshops, exercises, tools, and you feel like they have not really done something for you, I recommend going down this route. Now you want to make a copy of the vision board template. So you can use this in Canva. It's all with free elements. And what you can do is you can either use my template and just fill it in, or you can also just say, I'm putting it a little bit smaller on the side and I'm just looking roughly where I want to arrange things, right? So you can use it as like a direct filling it in, or maybe just a little bit more as a guide, like where do you want to place things on your vision board? This is on a Canva whiteboard, so you can really zoom in and play around with this a lot. So this is the second part. This is the vision board template. And as you can see, there's a few areas that we want to fill in. So even if you're going off now very soon and do this all by yourself, I just want you to consider these areas in your life. So overarching, we have your approach. This is the mindset and the knowing and the experience and the attitude that you bring to everything that you do. And it is the overarching field because it changes everything that we do. If you're faithful, spiritual, like I am, you can also say like this is the spirit you bring, right? This is how you want, for example, God or the universe to work through you when you show up this year. So this is kind of the overarching layer. What is the mindset? What's the attitude? What's the approach that we bring? Then we will map out after our approach who you are becoming, right? So what I like to work with is a role model version of myself. So I basically try to visualize the best version of Evelyn that unfolds in her most authentic, most in integrity self, right? So I always think of it like peeling back the layers of the onions of who we became over the years and just saying like what is true to my nature, but in the highest form of its expression, right? So who is that Evelyn that is like the best version of herself? That's my role model self. And I try to see her like as far as I can reach, as good as I can realistically believe she can be. And I externalize that because it becomes my destination point in the future. And it also by externalizing it and creating this point in the future, I now also have a path that I can walk on and that I can execute against. Right? So this is why we're then looking at who we are becoming. Now, after we looked at who we're becoming, we also want to be realistic about it, right? So something I always struggled with vision boards and with vision building exercises was that there's this voice in me that's like, oh, but this is a highlight reel. It's not maybe realistic. And I like to ground the who I am becoming and what I work towards as in what does an ordinary day look like, right? So what is the most beautiful version of an everyday life that we can create? And so instead of focusing on just the highlight reels, right, or the best cases, we want to say like, what would an ordinary Tuesday look like if it is really, really good, right? And if our role model self lives it. And then we have who guides me. And this is where we look across the mentors and influences and people that inspire us, like our business partners and friends in business and members and colleagues, and maybe influencing voices, podcasts, etc., that we listen to across all the areas that have an impact on our role model self. And what's really, really important there is that we're looking at what parts of them and their journey and their attitude inspire us, and then also what parts repel us, right? Because a lot of our positioning in life and in our vision can be found through where are we repelling, right? So where do we hit us off? And it's like, oh, this is actually, I love this, but not in that type of value, right? So that's the who guides me section. Then we have our transformation, right? Like I said, once we have that clarity of who we're becoming and what we want to stand for and what is really important to us, we also want to say now we have that vision. So how do we walk there? What is that? What does that transformation, that journey look like? From that transformation, we can then build what we're building, right? Because it's like, if you think of that path, that transformation, it's like you're building a bridge there. And if you have a business, your offerings and the containers and products and solutions you create, they represent building blocks of the bridge that you have in a productized format, right? So this is where we really think about offer creation and solution creation for our customers, right? Because I am a firm believer that actually, when we self-actualize into that best version of ourselves, it will be the biggest synergy if we can do that in a way that it is monetizable, right? I'm known for helping people to monetize their personal growth journey in a way that helps others. So it has to be bigger than ourselves. There needs to be purpose in our journey that is bigger than ourselves, that serves and that provides genuine value to the market, right? So I'm not with serving, people are overutilizing it and it's vague. We want to really think about what problems that the market has and demand solution for can we create based on the journey we want to walk towards that most manifested highest version of ourselves. And then we have a section, I think this is one that is really important for me. It's like, what else belongs? So there will be pieces when we're going through that will pop up and we were like, it doesn't really fit anywhere, but something in my heart really, really pulls me to it. Somehow this feels so important. And so we want to put it there because often it is an important piece of our journey, and our brain already recognizes it by recognizing the pattern, by also maybe, okay, let's not go into too much spiritual, right? Because everybody believes something different, but maybe there's a karmic attachment. There's something that you have experienced, why this is relevant. There's something that might want to be solved or revisited, and it's important that we allow it to be there until we see where it fits in, because often those unexpected, seemingly irrelevant elements are what gives us an edge, right? What makes us really stand out on the market with our offers, but also there's also pieces that want to be resolved in our journey, that want to be, or maybe not resolved, maybe just integrated as well. So this is the vision board overview. And now you also want to make a copy here of the vision board elements. Now, I brought you 200 elements, which are frames and stickers and elements that we would typically put on a vision board, and then also different stock images. And this is just a starting point for you, right? So I recognize that these vision boards in an ideal world, they look very, very different from each other, right? And this is very much also born from like how I laid out my vision board, right? So I recognize that this will not be the exact like perfect elements for you, but they can give you a starting point and something to put on there right now that you might want to refine or replace later. And a lot of the elements, when you're going on them in Canva, let me find an example. For example, here, a lot of them actually you can adjust the colors of them, right? So a lot of them you can already modify a little bit. And then when you use, for example, ChatGPT, you can also just say, let's say, your vision board will be all purple. Then I would just say, please regenerate this in purple. This is my brand color. So I'm just picking a random purple now just to show you. So when you color it here, you see it does like wonky things, but if you want it like super clean in your colors because you enjoy this, you can just head to ChatGPT and then customize all of these elements for you, right? The same, oh, I reached my limit for the. Okay, let me just show it to you in Gemini region. Or we wait until it's there again. In my purple color. Now I hope it allows me to do that. So I really love to work with Gemini and Nano Banana as well, but ChatGPT is what most people have access to and can use the image generation with. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Oh, thank you for tuning in. Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for being here. All right, so just basically walking you through the things that are included. So here you can see, right? You can regenerate the elements in your styles and in your colors, okay? And for stock images, you can also generate stock images in this way. And another great place to find stock images is also Etsy. So you can also just look for stock images. And then you also get a large variety of different themed stock images with whatever fits your vision board style, right? And then you can maybe, for example, again, your brand color is purple, for example, you can find like all these gorgeous stock images. And then I recommend that you, for example, sort by the price, because a lot of these people here resell the same stock images. See there, you can buy one for 16 euros versus you can buy one for a few euros. And a lot of them is just master resale rights, which is why you have different listings at different price points. Okay. So I don't want to diverge. I just want to show you where you can find stuff for your vision board. And if you're going off the alone route, you're released right now, just make it on very small volume and then start to do this. That's an excellent question. Do you do two vision boards, one for business and one for personal? I do one vision board because for me it has to be deeply integrated to be sustainable. And there's one reason why I keep my vision board private, because there's also things about my relationship on there. There's things about my son on there. There's things about my body and weight, and like that I don't necessarily want to broadcast too much because it just still feels a little bit too vulnerable to put it. You guys know from the Experience Worker Bootcamp, I share already a lot with my members, but to put it like that on the internet feels a little bit too intimate. For me, it is all in one, because like I said, often also that personal elements that are part of the journey, they are what give you the edge in business, because you also want to think about this in this way. Our customers, they are also all human, right? So the things bleed into each other, and I think it's an advantage if you see it holistically. It's just not how we live. We don't, you know, it's or we're not in as much synergy as we could be if we're trying to split those and we're just switching heads. All right, so now that you have all of the elements, let me just double check. Yeah, so we have all of the elements. Now let's start going through these here. Okay, so we're going to start with my approach, and I will just walk you through like a few considerations, but you can already start to add elements here that are a reflection of your approach. Okay, and so as a reminder, let me just go all the way here. What is your approach? So this section captures how you want to face challenges, opportunities, and setbacks. Not what you want to achieve, but how you want to move through the process of building, of becoming that best version of yourself, right? So what comes in this section, what you want to put there is, for example, a quote that captures how you want to approach challenges. It can also be a metaphor, an image. So maybe, from the stock images, you might want to pick a wave or water, or you might want to pick the tree or the mountain. You want to maybe pick fire, right? So what energy do you bring to that journey of becoming and to the challenges and opportunities that arise with it? You also maybe want to think about a person you admire, as in how they handle difficulties, not their achievements, but their approach. So, for example, on my vision board, there is Michael A. Singer. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I loved his book, The Surrender Experiment, where he shared his attitude of how he built his businesses and how he thinks about showing up. So you want to think about, like, is there a person or are there multiple people where you admire one or more aspects, as in how they show up for the journey? And remember, we can pick meat and we can leave the bones. So maybe for one person, we love their drive, their relentlessness, but we don't necessarily align with their values. So that is completely fine. So you can also put images of people on there, and you can select maybe from the provided resources. Maybe you can select the frame from the provided resources and put the person in the frame. And maybe you even want to think about what frame for what person. One frame might feel like a little bit more open and closer to your heart, and another frame might feel a little bit more distant if it's people where you just want to take maybe an element of how they approach things. So really think about feeling into how close you want to have things, right? Think about when you're selecting images, how do you want that force to feel? How do you want that spirit to feel? Maybe you also want to put some symbols of your faith there if that feels appropriate to you. So, this is much more about also working with your body and feeling into how does this feel. We don't have to find the words yet, don't have to get it right, all of it. We just want to feel in. Maybe something else that you want to put there or that you want to consider is a story that you read, right? So, one of my favorite stories that uh, always captures how I want to show up to life is the frog that they put into the milk. There's two frogs, and they fall into a pot of milk, and one gives up and drowns, and the other one just keeps swimming until the milk turned to butter and he can jump out. I really love this. There's also the science experiment where they put a rat. It's pretty brutal now, but they put a rat into uh, water, and then they let it swim, and they measure the time until the rat gives up, right, and is ready to drown. And then they put the rat, and when they put the rat in, and they actually let it swim once, like to that point, but they save it the next time it swims. I need to actually look this up for you. um, Another AI tool I like to use here is Perplexity. It's great for surfacing facts here. So this tool, this year is also a lot for me about learning about AI, upskilling it this way. So I try to bring these elements into the workshop with you. Okay, so I'm going to read this out to you while you go around and you find your things. So you're likely thinking of Kurt Richter's mid-20th century drowning rat experiments, which are widely retold as a hope story. Um, so Richter wants to puts rats in containers of water and timed how long they swam before giving up. In one version, commonly repeated today, rats supposedly swam 15 minutes on the first trial. When rescued, dried, and rested briefly and placed back in the water, they swam for up to 60 hours, 2 to 2.5 days. Right? So it's great because it shows a little bit about the actual data here. So popular claims the rats from 50 minutes then 60 hours come from secondary motivational self-help, not from a rigorously documented experiment. Modern empathy and rescue stories on rats are real and well controlled, but they focus on whether and how rats help others in water. Okay, so I want to see how much time did it actually add. Many secondary sources say Okay, so accounts instead describe the initial survival in the range of 2 minutes, then later an average survival of about 6 hours with a maximum of 81 hours. But that's still somewhat inspiring. And I also like that we're fact checking things. So the just the belief of being rescued and having hope, giving us more power, that is a story that I always find really, really interesting. Another story that I find really interesting in my approach is the one of the uh, where the son of a farmer falls off the horse, and so people come and they express that they're sad for the farmer and they give their condolences, and the farmer says, is it good or bad, who knows. Then later on the war breaks out and the son cannot go to war because he is injured, and the people say, oh my goodness, you got so lucky, and the farmer says, well, we don't know if it's good or bad, and then another thing happens. So another story that I like to use to guide my attitude is this attitude of, I do not know the plan. I do not want to judge things as good or bad because I do not know the bigger picture or where things lead me. So I might as well choose to always see them as an opportunity, to always see them as a potentially meaningful part of my story. Is it like that? Nobody knows. But does it give me energy and allow me to show up in a better way? 100%. So think of stories. Maybe there are movies that capture, you know, how you want to show up from an attitude perspective. Talked to a friend of mine the other day. He's a huge Batman fan. So for him, it's thinking about how Batman would show up. That's what gives him the right attitude in that moment. So, if you have Batman, or my son loves Spider Man, he also loves listening to the Jacko Willings podcast. If that's something for you, then put it there. And then maybe there's a place that embodies the energy that you want to bring, right? So maybe there is a place in your home that always gets you in the right energy. Maybe there is a cafe from where you work that gets you in the right energy. Maybe you've been on a travel, on a journey, and you've been at a place where you felt truly, as in, here is where your highest self shows up. So maybe you find a picture of that place on your phone, in your image gallery. And of course, maybe there's also a past image of yourself. Maybe for me, I was a very brave, stubborn kid, very much like my son. And then life and myself allowed to turn me a little bit into a people pleaser and a pushover over the years. So I like to look at the pictures from this bold, brave, wild little girl and be like, okay, you're the type of attitude and braveness and courage that I want to bring, and playfulness that I want to bring to situations, right? So maybe that is what you want to put on the vision board. Me too. All right. So now, while you start putting things there, I want to talk a little bit more through in the guide and maybe share my screen here. So for those of you that are watching, I want to walk you through this. Okay. So this might be the most important concept of the entire workshop, which is also why I put it early. How you approach things doesn't just affect your experience, it actually changes the reality of how things turn out. And this is not woo-woo, it is very, very logical. So your approach is the stance, the knowledge, the frame that you bring to any situation. That approach filters what you perceive, what you notice, and how you interpret it. What you perceive then drives your actions, and your actions create results, outcome, cause and effect, right? Outcomes in the real world. And over time, those results compound into the reality that you live in, right? The same person with the same resources can end up living completely different lives based on simply how they approach, what approach they bring to a situation. Your approach is a lever that shifts everything downstream. When I explained this for the first time, I did my role model self workshop, And I explained to people that I had been struggling with putting it together, with synthesizing it, which now is a lot easier if you use an AI system that has RAG. So, for example, for this workshop, I synthesized a lot of my past teachings in a Claude project, made it so much easier. But at that time, I didn't have that yet. Capabilities were not there, and I was not as savvy using these things. So I spent 2 weeks desperately trying to synthesize it all into one cohesive thesis. And because it was so important to me, I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I finished last minute. I always like to pre-sell things, so I do have that pressure situation of eventually having it done, because otherwise I will perfectionist around forever. And so I slept very little when delivering that workshop. And so there could have been two ways in which I could have approached this. And thankfully, I caught myself because I have that vision for myself. The way I was feeling after that night was, I effed this up. This is not going to be good. I wanted this to be all of this, that. People are spending their time with me. I'm wasting their time. I'm not being respectful of their time. Um, you know, this is going to be a nightmare, and it's going to be an embarrassment, and it's going to affect my reputation and what people think about my teachings. And then I was like, okay, no, 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 no. Remember, we can always make the best out of any situation. I have lived this. I can speak from the heart. I can pull from my experience. And I trust that if I now just pour myself all into this, something beautiful will come out of it. And I started that conversation, that workshop, with being open and vulnerable to people that this is not up to par with what I had imagined, but I used it as an opportunity to explain approach to them. And it turned out to be a really, really great workshop. Also the foundation for this and for the planner challenge. So we can always change the outcomes by taking a brief moment, grounding ourselves and revisiting our vision board and our role model self and say, what's the approach that I committed to using when showing up? And it will change how we move through challenges. It will change the outcomes, and changed outcomes compound into new realities for us. Okay? So I'm giving you a second to fill in more on your vision board and have a sip of my coffee. And then I want to bring you some contemplation questions that I don't need you to answer. You can, if you have a piece of paper next to you, if you want to journal this through, you can absolutely take the time after. But it's more questions that I want your brain to sit with and carry. And we have these contemplation questions for every single section. Okay, so just one moment, and then I walk you through. And maybe some of you might want to share some insights in the chat as well. If anything comes up that you think is important for others, that would help others, that would encourage others, then I would love if you can share it in the chat as well. If a question comes up for you right now, you can also share it there. So let's start with the first contemplation question, and just keep adding to that vision board. Also know, if you need more time here, you can pause this video. You can take more time to add more things. Maybe you just want to add notes for now, and then you want to add more detail later, right? So all of those are options for you that are available. You make this your process. All right, so for the contemplation questions, when things get difficult in your life and in your business, what's your default approach? Do you have a default coping mechanism? Because I have a default approach and I have a default coping mechanism as well. So, what's the default approach? Do you have a conscious default approach, or you're not aware? Like, think of it when you move through challenges really well, where you look back and you're like, huh, I actually kind of nailed this. Woohoo! What was the approach there? If you can surface it into consciousness, we can deliberately choose it the next time. Right? And then maybe you have, when you don't move through challenges, well, I know for sure that I have a mode where I switch to I'm overwhelmed, I shut down, I try to start blaming others, get a little bit hysterical. I definitely have that. Maybe we can name those modes, right? So maybe for me it's the crazy mode versus the productive mode. What is crazy, what is productive? Maybe we can label it so we can catch ourselves in the next moments when this happens. We're like, am I crazy mode right now, or am I productive mode? Right. So we can state shift when we can put names to it, when we can surface it into the consciousness, then we can make a more deliberate choice about how we might want to show up. Does anyone recognize this maybe for themselves? Do you have a crazy mode? Do you have a destructive mode? Do you have a productive mode? Maybe a solution mode. Maybe you're turning into a problem solver, or maybe all of your strength gets unlocked, or maybe you get very resourceful. Maybe there's a hat that you can put on where you can ask for help really well. You recognize these modes. If you recognize them, can you name them? Maybe you want to put them on your vision board. Maybe we can strike through one and we can highlight another one with stickers. We just want to notice, right? There's no judgment. I'm trying to be with you also as open, as vulnerable as possible, show you that it's very human, very normal to have productive and very unproductive ways and coping mechanisms as well. Let me know what's coming up for you. Well, I would love to be able to do readings and everything, but I'm utterly uneducated, unfortunately. There's great people for this on school that you can check out. Let me actually give a shout out if I can find it. We have a beautiful soul in our school ambassadors group. He teaches Vedic astrology and he does readings. Very, very sweet person. So it's a free school community too, as far as I know, last time I checked. So if you're into astrology, birth chart reading, etc., highly recommend checking out this community. I'm the wrong person for it. I'm so sorry. Is there a page in the actual planner where we write crazy mode for an example out? It's not in a planner. So what we have here in the planner is we have this vision board piece in the planner, right? Here we have the North Star vision part in the actual planner. And the section we're working on, if you have the physical planner, here we have, one second. So from page 10, we have your North Star vision. And then on page 12, we have gather what inspires you. So here we have set aside 60 to 90 minutes to collect anything that feels important to you, your personal and professional growth. Look through your phone, social media. So basically, we are working on this part of the planner that is like a vision board in here. All right, so this is the part of the planner that we're now pre-filling. And I find it very, very helpful to first do this digitally and then print and cut out and place the pieces here. So if you have the physical planner, thank you so much, Kathy, for the question. If you have the physical planner, what we're doing now very deliberately and together is in the North Star vision, we're creating your vision board and we're filling it in. Right? And then after, we're also doing this here is we're exploring your themes. And finding our North Star feelings, right? So this is this is the first part of the planner, starting with the clarity. The part one, basically where we start to walk through. This is why, and over the course of the challenge, it breaks down all the planner pages. But this is basically your prep work, because I don't know how you are, but whenever I'm putting something into the physical planner, I always kind of want to have an idea, because I always I'm afraid to mess it up. Although there is no such thing, basically we're preparing it digitally, and then you can print it out and you can place the elements there. Thank you for the question. That was beautiful. Okay, so only me having a crazy mode? Really? When I did 7 out of 10 weekly workshops, I plunged through and the results were disappointing, but it taught me how to refine the workshop and then use it as a $299 workshop, so not all is lost. I don't think that my core belief that I hold, and that's also in the approach section for me, is that I don't believe that anything is lost. It is always skill acquisition, right? So it's just me doing the reps of getting better. And it is also context generation. Now that we have AI, every piece of work that I do, because I can get the transcript or the video and the data from it, it helps me to add context. So in future work and output I generate, I have more relevant context. I have super valuable data, right? Which is like so cool if you think about reframing failure as data. And when we see where the world is going and how we can now work with AI, it is actually highly relevant, super helpful data. So it's like I always win because I acquire skills and I get data. So I can never lose if I'm exposing myself to experience and to attempting and trying something. And also one thing, last thing for the approach, something that always has helped me is to really think about everything I do as skill acquisition, in that sense that I first need to understand the concept, right? So if I want to learn how to swim, I first need to understand the concept of swimming. I need to understand how water behaves. I need to understand how my body needs to move through the water. And very likely I need to have a person explaining it to me first before I get wet. But I can watch all of the videos in the world about swimming. When somebody then throws me in, if I cannot swim, I will surely drown. And that is not because I didn't understand the videos. It's because there's a difference between knowing how to do something cognitively, having the knowledge, and having the skill of executing it. So I need to get into the water and I need to struggle with this and I need to understand how it feels. And then I can do it. At the moment, I teach my son ice skating. And there's like this point where you understand how to go back with your feet so you can get momentum and you can get playful with it. And eventually you get so good with it that you don't even think about what you're doing anymore, right? So it's like all the things in life we do, they work like that. First, we have to understand the concept, and then we go on the ice and we have to fall on our booty, and then we have to like get the baby steps, and there's so much thinking involved and it's so awkward and it's so unnatural, and we still fall so many times, and then it clicks and suddenly it becomes more fun, and it becomes more fun and more fun, and then eventually we don't even think about our feet anymore. Like we're playing, and we're really getting to a point of mastery. And I believe that all of the things we do, it's just how we acquire those skills and how we learn to execute against them. And that's one of the things that I also love in my approach, which is why I don't have any sunk cost fallacies, right? I love to see everything I did was a stepping stone in having the skill and having the knowledge and having the context I needed to get to today. And every single day that I'm holding myself in that attitude gets me ahead of somebody who doesn't think like that, right? I bought erasable pens like you recommended for the planner. I love that. Yes. Planner is also great as a junk journal if you want to cut out pictures from a magazine, etc., and stick them in, and even use scents at music playlists, which are powerful for evoking emotions. That's such a good tip. I never thought about spraying it with a perfume. That's so cool. I have a wedding perfume that I really love with poppies, and that is kind of my badass scent when I'm like going for things. I put this perfume on. That's such a beautiful idea to spray the cutouts. Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. That's such a beautiful idea. I use baby powder when manifesting my girls. I know what I need to buy later today. We're still manifesting siblings for my son. We'll get there. Or, whatever will happen. It's not up to me. Okay, more contemplation questions for this section. Think of a situation that could have gone badly but turned out well. What approach did you bring that shifted the outcome? I gave you an example from my workshop. Maybe you can think about something in 2025 that could have gone wrong, but it actually was turned into a net positive because of the way you showed up. Um, we just had actually this beautiful example here in the chat as well that Beth shared, right? So she actually turned it into a mini offer. So she actually did something really, really good with it. Maybe you have some other examples. I have Netflix mode fun and hit the ground running and push through. I'm training myself not to just perform well under pressure. I love that. When I tried to take the frames from the stock images you gave us and upload them into the vision board, it won't let me add a photo. Can you show us how you do that? Absolutely. Okay, so let's see if I can add a photo here. Maybe you might need to ungroup them. So all of these are elements I generated. So you shouldn't have any Canva copyright images at all. Now let me just try an image. So this should work. Sometimes, maybe when the image is, this also should work. Oh yeah, so here, for example, you see, because we have these beautiful leaves, I actually had to place the frame behind. So what you would then want to do is ungroup, and then you can say layer, send to back. Now this is coming forward. And now I can say layer, send to back. Now, this is just when something in the frame laps into the image. There was no other way for me. At least maybe there, very likely there's another way, but I just didn't know about it, to get those images in. Can you try it and let me know if it works? That was the frame we're using. That's one of my favorites, actually. Okay, beautiful. Let me put some more contemplation questions in your head just to marinate while you shower. What metaphor describes how you currently move through challenges? What metaphor describes how you want to move through them? Let me think about this for myself. I think I am moving through challenges like the frog that I told you, right? I'm like, I'm in milk and I have to turn it into butter so I can survive. And how I would like to move through it is, does anyone know the movie Finding Nemo? I just watched it with my son. He's now in the age. And there's Dory, and she swims also always, but she is just swimming, 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 just swimming. So I want to keep being the frog, leaping out of that milk turned butter eventually, but I want to swim like Dory. Okay, not survival mode, but just swimming, swimming, swimming. That's how I'd like to move for them. So I'm gonna have to put Dory on my vision board after as well. Okay, who handles difficulties in a way you genuinely admire? What specifically about their approach resonates? So I shared this with you before. For me, it's Michael Singer. I love how he says that he uses every day and every situation of every day as an opportunity to liberate himself from his preferences and from his ego. So I love to practice this. I'm still a baby with it, right? There's so much, like, I need to still let go of so many things. So when challenges arises, when things are not how I want them to be, to really say, oh, I want to welcome this, to let go of my preference and just see what's the best I can bring to the situation, right? Beyond myself. And how can I celebrate it? He makes this example, when standing in a traffic jam, you can be upset about standing in a traffic jam, or you can be like, ooh, I'm on a planet spinning in the middle of nowhere, the only one we know where there's life, and I'm sitting in a car. It's like, because I practiced this a little bit and I can bring it to situations now. And I like to like reframe them as in like, holy cow, I'm literally like on the only planet we know that has life, and it's so beautiful. And I'm sitting in a little car. How crazy is that? And just bringing like this tremendous amount of gratitude, but also saying, how can I bring beauty to that situation? How can I make the situation better because of the attitude I bring? That's what I truly, truly admire about him and how he shows up, like that gratitude, but also this, how can I make this better, way beyond myself. And so it's a really good way to stay in this swimming mode and not fighting, um, not taking myself so serious. I think what I also like about him is he doesn't take himself seriously, right? Or not as he takes like his deeper emotional, or his I think he takes his essence so seriously that he cannot take his ego so seriously. So yeah, I really love this. All right, so this is this part about the approach. Maybe can we find like a few words as we're wrapping up this section? Maybe can we find a few words for the approach that you want to bring? For me, it is playfulness, gratitude, it's stamina, it's openness, it's willingness. What are the things that what does describe your approach the best? Yes, learning to swim, intellectual knowledge, and experiential, very different but complementary. 100% agree. I'll wait for a few words to come into the chat before I then move into the next section with you. And maybe I need to close a few tabs here. Welcome, we're having a vision board party. You can go all the way to the beginning of the live stream, and then it walks you through. And there's also where you know how to get the elements for your vision board. Oh, curiosity. I love this. Really beautiful one for where the next year is going as well. So I get the desire to redo my vision board after this challenge. I will write like a few words in here just so I remember. So, Dory, I have to remember. Frogs. Gratitude. Openness. Playfulness. Nothing lost. Always skills and data. Oh, another image of mine is the Tropfsteinhöhle. Let me just translate it to English. I think of myself as a stalactite cave in my business and in my life, how I'm making a difference. I'm the consistent drops, right? And the consistent drops, they eventually carve the stones. So that's an image for me that definitely belongs. That's the force that I bring. It's the small, underrated consistency of the drop, 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 drop that make these beautiful things over time. My approach is a little crazy, desperate, sorry to say, but how I want to approach it with love and expectation of good. So that's completely fine, right? And it's maybe there is a part in like the chaos energy and maybe the desperation where you say, oh, I'm actually sourcing a lot of energy in that. I know for me from that frog, in that dramification that I sometimes do, and the anxiety, I find a lot of energy, right? So maybe it's a something maybe to look into or explore for yourself again. I don't know. I'm just sharing from my experiences. I've realized that I'm utilizing it to source energy. And so I try to now also think, what are my alternatives for sourcing energy? One of my biggest one is sourcing where the little girl sourced from, which is not anxiety and fear, but very much from excitement and playfulness. So I'm very mindful like where I'm sourcing my energy to get things done from. And I'm very mindful when I'm sourcing it from like the dark place. Because it can be something that can be very helpful for you. And I I've been having panic attacks, anxiety for many, many years. Still last year had some. Um, and I realized that a part of me still using it as a way to drive myself and make myself do things. So, I'm not saying it's true for you. I'm just saying for me, there was a great utility in these things sometimes as well. Progress for doing in action. I love that. I have a framework PDF. Do you want this? It's knowledge of top of zero as I work very long. I'm not sure if that's the right frame right now. I think of a farmer. He plants a seed in the spring, knowing they will sprout, but not forcing and checking every day, then getting down on himself when he doesn't see them sprouting the next day. Very, very cool visual metaphor. I can frame it into energy. Thank you. All right. So, consistency is crucial for me. I know that that the result compounds. Leila is on my board and her Fakir mood quote. Oh, I love that. Leila is also a huge inspiration for me. And what inspires me about her particularly is how she sources mentorship from different areas and how she's like very deliberate in using models for her self improvement and how well she looks at things in detail. So when I had the interview with her for my podcast, I don't know if you've not seen this, if you're a Layla fan, highly recommend checking this out. And even if you've listened in, sometimes it's like good to listen in again. Where is Layla? She did such a great thing of breaking down people pleasing for me, and she did something similar like what I just said about where's the utility for you in it, right? This is probably a strategy for you that has been very successful, which is why you're holding on, right? And maybe you don't need to change that whole successful strategy. You may just need to identify where the strategy breaks down and then say, what's an alternative behavior I can practice in that situation, right? To mitigate that downfall, that breakdown of the strategy. So that's what I really, really love about her. Is like the nuanced thinking and breaking things down and seeking the mentorship, seeking the tools, seeking the self-improvement. So she is definitely on my board as well. Absolutely adore her and learned so much. And I keep learning so much. All right, so next section, I hope we're ready, is who am I becoming? So now that we have our approach, we can come down here into the vision board. Who am I becoming? Now we're externalizing that version of ourselves. This is really in the center. Okay, and I will walk you through a little bit. This section whoops, wrong tab. This section captures the person you're becoming. It's not who you are today, but it's also not this crazy fantasy. It is the most actualized version of yourself that you can confidently see right now. So and I found that the easiest way for us to predict this person is to looking at what we already consume. Our consumption patterns reveal who we're becoming. So what you want to do maybe is look through your Instagram and see what posts you have saved, or your Facebook, or your school, right? So what things have you consumed that you have saved for future reference because they seem really important? Do you see that there's a theme appearing? Same goes for your YouTube watch history, Pinterest boards if you use them. What screenshots did you take and save on your phone? What books are there on your nightstand that you wanted to read? What people do you listen to, tune into, and admire for what qualities? And you want to really look for recurring patterns in there, right? So your consumption, what you consume, and ultimately it is what you consume also very, very greatly predicts what you become. And if you think about this in its rawest, realest way, this is true for food. The food you consume literally creates the body you have tomorrow, right? And so do the things that your brain consumes, the content you consume, the people you listen to, the people you're surrounding yourself with, the knowledge you consume. This is what's shaping your approach, your frame, what you aspire to be. And you can either do it subconsciously and in a way that you might not intend, or again we can surface and we can say, what about this is actually drawing me, right? How is this an expression of the most actualized version of myself that I'm actually seeking? Okay, so now I need to talk to you a little bit about the role model self, right? So it is a working hypothesis of who you are becoming. Like I said, it's that most actualized version of yourself that you can see right now. This future self is a moving goalpost that evolves as you evolve. We will never arrive. There will always be a version of ourself that we can aspire to be. And even if it's towards the end of our life, how we want to go out, leave a legacy, the things we want to leave behind, right? As we progress in life, who we aspire to become changes, and we will never arrive, but we can always strive for it. Not in a way that is like, oh, we're never good enough, but in a way that we have a North Star, right? In a way that we have, because we will always choose a North Star. And if we don't do it consciously, we'll do it unconsciously. And people and content and offers can ping pong us around, right? So if we don't choose that vision, that role model self for ourselves, we will use other North Stars and we will get soaked into things that are not representative of our values, our vision, our true self, and what we can create. So it's great to look for that within ourselves. There's maybe that's a piece and for another part, or maybe it's the right time. You know, Alexander the great conqueror that was seeking outside and was conquering the world to become his best version. And then we have what was his name? The philosopher Diogenes. So this is also one of a story that I really love. And I like to frame it for myself for where do you look for your guiding light, right? So this is Alexander the Great. He's conquering, And he says basically to Diogenes, what do you, because he hears about this philosopher, right? And he comes to him and he says, I can give you everything you want. What do you want? And he says, get out of my sunlight. And then Alexander the Great says, if I wasn't Alexander, I'd wish to be Diogenes. So, and if I wasn't Diogenes, I wish to be Diogenes too. So it's, it's that difference of seeking the fulfillment in creating manifestation of your will in the real world versus seeking fulfillment within yourself by doing the inner work and by basically releasing from within yourself and being your own sunlight. For me it's like that spectrum of, Alex Ramosi that I really admire and Michael A. Singer that I really admire. It's like these are, Alex for me is like the conqueror of the world, breaks the world record. It's all manifesting action, skill in the real world, and Michael A. Singer is for me like all manifesting internally and then expressing in the real world. And if you look up Michael A. Singer, he built a wildly successful business, but it was more a byproduct by his becoming. And so for me, if I think on that spectrum, there's so many things here that I love and borrow from and learn, and where I feel like really drawn to is here, right? And so for the role model self, I want you to think of this as in I want you to create your inner mentor that can always, and maybe there's not all things from Michael A. Singer where I'm like, oh, this is what I'm totally on track with. So this is why, when we are on a spectrum, and these are just mentors that I have that exist on a spectrum, you probably have many more influences. But when we have those external influences on a spectrum, we want to center in ourselves and say, what's our future role model self as that ultimate mentor? So we can consolidate that first, and then we can filter all external influences through the lens of, does this truly fit who we are unfolding into? And that's why we need that inner mentor always, because otherwise we are pushed around other people's lives, other people's visions. We're not actualizing our truest nature. We're not unfolding in full integrity. That's my core belief in there. Right? So who is that version of yourself? And when we externalize them, we have it as our North Star always. We can consult mentors better. We can make strategies better. It becomes our goal we're moving towards. It also becomes our guide and our filter. By externalizing it, we now have the journey to walk through, but we're not walking that journey alone and lost and ping-ponged around anymore, because we have our mentor that we can look at and we can say, dear future self, dear role model self, is this the right choice for me, for who we're becoming? And very often it would just be a feeling where like, something about this, I like the outcome, but I do not like the way it's done, right? Or something about this just isn't true to myself. I just don't see or feel like that. Maybe there's a different expression of this based on my values. So Lara is on the call. She is a huge expert in values, and she will also tell you that it comes back to values and beliefs. Always, for me, this the role model self is a very practical tool to live that and to execute against my actual values and my actual beliefs and who I actually want to become. Okay. So what's really important about this is that we want to aim for directional correctness. So not for perfection. When you're thinking now, when you're now putting those things that you consume, you will see patterns, right? So for me, I will see that I do have a lot of pictures around nutrition and fitness content saved. I also have things saved from maybe people that operate in the same space as I am that really are crushing it. And there's a part of me that's like triggered by this, like, I wouldn't do it like this, but I need to do something. Like, what do I do? So there's business content saved where it's like people in my space where I'm like, oh, they're doing something. Then there is content saved where I'm like, oh, this is a great way to package this. There's a lot of AI, like teaching saved. There's a lot of fitness content saved. So all of those are the things that kind of go into from the Instagram side. On YouTube, I do have a lot of videos saved around AI skill building, future of AI, future of labor and work and economics. I have a lot of Michael Singer videos saved. I have some Alex videos saved I want to watch. I have some Layla videos saved that I want to watch. So what are the things that I have saved there? I have school stories podcast saved. I have some workout videos saved. I have some videos saved from Madeline Raskin, I think she's called. I really like her fitness thing, but also how genuinely like she approaches content, right? So it's like there's all of these things like flying around that I put on my vision board. And then when I look at it, I can take that step back and I can say, for me, for example, building my business in a way that it aligns with my physical and health goals is very important, right? For me, creating content that really reaches people is very important in a way that is educational, not triggering, right? So it's like really, really big. There's some content, for example, I can also know I have saved this content because I truly want to watch it. I care about the topic that is covered, but I cannot consume the content from this person because I will feel triggered and I will feel like I'm behind in my business and I will fall out of my approach and fall into their approach, right? So, but the topic, for example, is really important for me. So it's becoming a theme on my journey, and we'll work out the themes after. So, what are the things that I have parenting advice saved, right? So what are the patterns there, the content that I keep looking up? I have content saved around mental health things that are currently top of mind for me. I have content saved around writing life stories and documenting journeys from your grandparents, etc. So how does it all fit together? And this is something that I sometimes see it more clearly, and sometimes I just have this blur, but I do understand the feeling of this blur. So you want to aim for it being directionally correct and it bringing up a feeling for you where you're like, this feels like my future home. This feels important. So, for example, also coaching skills always kept coming up for me over the years, personal development skills in various formats. They will always be a really important part of my journey. And I now, for example, with the certification, I see clearer how they fit in. And sometimes, some days I will see it to the T, right? And then some days it will get blurry again. But that's okay because we want to have like this overall, our North Star, our role model self. It's like this overall cloud of this feels part of that person. This feels directionally correct, right? So it's not like you can now describe that future version of yourself to the T exactly how they look. And I think this was always my struggle with a lot of the vision building things because I can nail that today and I will look at it tomorrow and I will be like, yeah, that does not feel right, right? So you want to know that it's ever evolving and it's ever shaping and it's like a cloud where things come in, but all of the things that need to be that are there, they feel relevant, they keep coming up time and time again. You're not 100% sure how they fit in just yet, but you know that they're super important for you, so you want to have that directional correctness. And when you then execute against your role model self, you just want to say, how does this feel? Does this feel like it belongs to that person, to that space, to that vision? Or does it not feel like that? Right? So how does it feel? So we want directional correctness. When we have that directional correctness, when we keep collecting those elements that are part of us, we can look at a thing and we can say, for that future role model self, is that a part? Does that need to be integrated? If it's triggering, right? So for what part of this? And if there's and when I say triggering, I more mean like it has an emotional charge. Something comes up for you again and again, or something comes up for you the first time and you're like, this feels something, right? So there's like, this does something for you. It strikes your field of awareness. When we have that bubble of like, this is our role model self, you can look at this and you can say, how does this fit in? Does it maybe need to be resolved in a way that is like, this is actually the opposite of what I want to do. So what I can hold on here is like, for example, for me, I do not want to produce triggering content. I want to produce educational content, right? And with triggering content, I mean this content that always makes you feel like you're behind, right? Or, the gap is getting bigger, the goalpost moves. So maybe, when this comes up again and again, maybe the answer is just like, this is the opposite of what I want to do, right? Or you can look more nuanced and you can say, I really like this part. This feels like good. And this part doesn't work. Or it's like really spot on. You're like, this and exactly this expression, right? I also, for example, there's this vegan Instagram lady, and she's very, very, very thin. And that part is like, oh, I find this concerning. But her clothes and her hair and her earrings and all of this is like, exactly, this is how I want to dress. So I can put those parts, right? So you want to look for like which parts in which capacity are part of your cloud right now, and then you want to feed the cloud as things come up that you consume, and really be mindful this year of your consumption to say, what goes into my role model self cloud? What is in that bubble, right? Where are the boundaries of that? And how do you consume things? Become a really, really mindful consumer and say, I don't take things at face value. Not all of this is true. Not all of this is helpful. Not all of this is relevant. Which parts, to which extent, right? It's always on a spectrum. So be mindful of when you consume, how you consume, and how you digest it, right? And then digest through your role model filter and say, how does this person want to take this in? This is how you can get cleaner and clearer within yourself over time, and then you can always measure against that cloud, right? So by creating this contrast, we can form our vision really well, while the vision stays so fluent that it will adapt with us, and it's not rigid, because a rigid vision of yourself, it can never sustain. And this is a challenge why I also wanted to make the planner. You have to have a planning system that evolves with you and that is flexible enough that you can actually execute it, which is what I'll teach you in the remainder days of the challenge. Okay? So I'm going to go into the sustainability problem. Let me just check in with you a little bit here. Will you use ChatGPT to combine multiple elements for each part of the vision board, or use multiple images for each section? So I like to have the vision board split up into those sections, but I do use ChatGPT to then analyze the vision board and also use the vision board as context in my work as well. So for example, when I filter against and when I consume, I let LLMs take off a lot of my cognitive burden by prompting it to evaluate against my standards and values. Or I also can upload it and I can say, from my vision board, extract my values. And then it will give me a list and I can validate the output and I can say, this is true to this extent, here you got it wrong. So I will use it as a scaffolding partner to make my vision more clear. That's a great idea, but using the white pen on dark pages of the planner. Okay. Our future self being our role model cuts down the shiny object syndrome 100%. And the shiny object syndrome is so risky. Like even because we just talked about Alex, even he talks often about like the woman in the red dress. The distractions are our time thieves, our energy thieves, our money thieves, our life thieves. So we want to, the journey towards that role model stuff, it will always be like a little bit up and down. But if we have a shiny object, because we are not connected, we can go off really, really far, and we can lose so much time and energy and money and purpose when we go off that line. Guys, I just realized I need to quickly get my charger. I'm giving you some parts. I'm giving you some time to catch up on this part. And I leave Lara up because this is a really important message. Understanding your values and beliefs and how you live them is key. 100%. Can you show the vision board guide where you would write that you're talking about on the screen each time? Oh yes, I will share the screen more. I'm so intrigued to learn what my saved content will uncover around my role model self. I've never tried this exercise before. Try it. It's so interesting to see what you actually consume because it's also being more true with yourself. It's like, where is your attention really? Where are your desires really? And, also when I think of, the things I save, and then I'm like, there is some like points of myself where I do feel like, and so also again, like completely honest confession, I looked through my saved things, and then I saw I had saved some things from people in the space that I found massively triggering, like for example wild income claims, or just again this language that makes people feel so behind. And one part of that, what triggered me, was of course my values, but another part that triggered me was to see how relentless and professional they are doing it, and to look at my content and say, I'm not relentless and professional to that extent with my message. Right? So I can sit here and be upset and say they're doing the wrong thing because they should actually educate and help people and not make people feel like shit. So just so they buy their things, right? So I can sit here like, nagging Nancy and be, but a part of me is also jealous. And what part am I jealous of? The relentlessness and professionalism of that content. And so me sitting here and saying, oh, this is unfair, does not help anyone, including me, including my audience. But me saying, you know what? Let me get my stuff to that level of professionalism and relentlessness, right? So that is the answer in here. So I found it also really helpful to see these things and say, where's the actual desire here? And a part of that was to see that I'm not going all in and as hard on my conviction as they on theirs, right? And so it's easier for me to sit here and judge and do nothing about it, but wasting my energy and on my energy on sitting and judging, rather than saying, let me do something about it, right? Let me do something that is in integrity about it. Let me use it as a positive fuel, not as a negative weight. All right, so let's go back. The sustainability problem. So while you add more things from your history, seeing what you actually watch, what you actually consume, what it does to you, how it's a part of your role model self, let me talk to you about the 3 ways people try to build their personal brand and how only one of them is sustainable. So we start this whole business planning and school launch, relaunch challenge with this workshop around our role model self, because I believe that it's the most sustainable, most leveraged, especially now that we have AI, version that you can build a knowledge and experience based business, which is a very agile, very profitable, very beginner friendly, actually, type of business that we can start. And this is also true for you, if you're selling physical products, etc., because even if you're selling SaaS, like you see, for example, with big AI, big tech companies, the founders massively use personal brand these days to differentiate themselves and in their marketing. So, for example, when you think of that Christmas feature that ChatGPT launched, where Sam Altman just tweeted the tip of an emoji that was the present. And then people figured it out that when you put that present into ChatGPT, you'll get a Sora video where Santa gives you something based if you were naughty or nice. That was a massive promotion for Sora, right? But the way that they did it, they were using Sam Altman's personal brand to launch into it. They didn't promote it with a marketing campaign, etc. And this is the future of marketing as well, right? Alex Hormozi just with his book, he broke a world record, right, of how he launched. He spent years building his personal brand. That is not an accident. We see influencers, people that sell commoditized goods like lip gloss very successfully. Hailey Bieber and her role deal. This is all found on personal brand, right? But here's what people do. They first off don't understand how to build a personal brand, and there's always a way to build a personal brand, no matter how you think about your privacy concerns. There's big faceless personal brands. Think of Marshmallow. He eventually took off the mask, but there's big faceless personal brands as well, but it's still personal because the way that they show up is from a personal perspective, with personal opinions, informed by personal values, informed by their role model self, right? So they are actually, if you think about it, in one way or another, all role models that we have now in our society. Even if you don't agree with, I don't like what they're role modeling, but they're role modeling something for someone, and actually something for many people in different extents, right? So personal brands and making every brand you do personal is the future that we are in right now. If you base your business on your current self, what will happen is that you will outgrow it quickly, you will feel boxed in, stuck, and you can't evolve. That happened to me when I had my first business after my first business collapsed. So let me explain that to you. How I got into self-employment was that I was running the e-commerce and marketing department for a wholesale company. And we acquired Amazon as a customer, and we were supplying Amazon. I realized how the algorithm works and how they were purchasing things. And I had an idea for how we would order to be a bigger supplier for Amazon that I introduced to my boss. He didn't want to do it back then because it was not a fit with the overall business strategy. So I told my back then neighbor what I saw, what I believed, because he had money because he was going public with a business, and I knew he had money and that he was into business. So I asked him if he wants to do that with me. He started it with me, and we grew that supply company to Amazon from 0 to 12 million in 9 months. And then eventually, and during that course, because it was growing so quickly, I eventually had to quit my job because I was months just sleeping 4 hours a day because I was doing this dual work and then going to the warehouse, working there, taking the inventory, doing the orders. So I couldn't sustain both of it. So I had to quit my job. And after I quit my job, 2 months after, Amazon fired us as a supplier because we were too expensive. So yeah, I had hired all my friends. We had contracts for the warehouse for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. Yeah, and so the business was 0, 12 million, 0 in 9 months. And for me, that was crazy because I had attached my identity, my role model self to, I am e-commerce and marketing, head of e-commerce and marketing, right? I studied marketing. I always wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I'm way too risk averse for self-employment, actually. It was just no other choice. But then I made that step into being a business owner, an entrepreneur. That was, at least in my mind, that was the identity that I had formed in a short period of time. And then it felt like a complete identity loss on all phases, but I just couldn't go back to being self-employed. And then I did the first thing that I could thought of doing, which was based on my current self, on my experience, what's the personal brand that I want to build? And I had been running Facebook ads since it was possible in Austria. It was a big strength of mine. I did build websites. So I was like, yeah, let me be an agency owner. And the first role model I found was Kat Howell with her Facebook ads that convert. That was the membership seed that was planted in me then. And so I started to build my personal brand around that. The thing is, our agency was immediately doing really well. We had clients for $15,000 in the first month, and then we grew, but it only lasted for a year because that Facebook ad agency thing, that was an expression of my current self, the best that I could do. It was not meant to grow with me. It was not informed by who do I actually want to become, what's the vision that I had. And as I got involved in this world of online educators, personal brand enthusiasts, coaches, I was like, wow, this is wow, this is what I want to do, and this is who I want to be. So I eventually had to outgrow it. And I didn't learn this lesson that I'm giving you back then. So I always just reached for the next best thing, right? So it's like, oh, I can help coaches. So now I'm starting the Coach Growth Hub because I can help coaches with their ads and with their marketing. Oh, people like that I'm doing this as a low ticket membership, right? And so let me teach people about that. So I always just attached my identity to the next thing that felt within reach, but I never dared to take a step back and say, who do I want to be, like, as far as I can reach, right? Because that's when I started to do that. I was like allowing myself to look broader into, I want to help personal development enthusiasts, ambitious individuals, idealists, to become online educators and monetize their personal growth journey through all those various tools and experiences I have and will gather, and even using AI, right? So it's like, that feels like such a far reach and such a far stretch, but I can still touch it with my fingertips. And that's how I know that when I build from that place, the container will be big enough that I'm asking the right questions and I'm thinking along the right offers, the right things. So don't base it too much on your current self. Think as far as you can reach, and you can just touch it with your fingertips. Okay? So try to go from that place, because only then will it be sustainable. I was making that mistake. A mistake that I've seen many other people make is they base their whole brand and their whole thing around current market wants, right? So right now you could sell AI agents all the way up and down. Now the thing is that things evolve like really, really quickly, right? In the online space, but also in the marketplace, right? So industries get disrupted really quickly. And this is not only true for fast-paced industries like digital marketing, right? Or business coaching. This is also true for things like you're a vocal coach, right? Or you're a guitar coach. There are now tools coming out, or even like for personal trainers, there's now tools coming out where people can film themselves with their phone and AI is coaching them through it. So, how do you plan to add value in the future? How do you plan to be inspiring enough to go beyond meeting that current market demand? Because how the market demand will always be there, but how it's served and how you can compete with other solutions, that will constantly evolve. So even if you feel like, oh, I'm in a slow poke field, there's not much things that kind of happen for me. Honestly, I think with how we currently develop with AI, no knowledge, experience, coaching, consulting, mentoring, content-based worker is safe from disruption. So you want to not position yourself too narrowly around what the market currently wants, because you'll fall out of product to market fit with your brand faster than you can say revenue. Trust me, like it was the same with the master resale rights craze, like all of those things. So don't place it on the current demand. You'll fall out of it quickly and then you'll be completely lost. It's kind of like the story that I told you about about my brand. When this happened and I started to build up the agency, we had to, my now husband and I, we were pitching on Fiverr, on Upwork. We were working like maniacs for dollars, right? Because I told you, we got contracts for $15,000. This was blood money, guys. We were working like maniacs to secure them, to deliver on them. Our hourly rate was after tax below $5. It was craziness. And why did this happen to me? Because I did not have a personal brand. It was just focused around what the market wanted, and I had to bend myself backwards to fulfill on it. And eventually it also fell out of product to market fit. So don't base your business on what you think would sell. And don't base your business on what you think you could sell. Base it on that vision of that ever evolving self and use that as what informs your business and the products it creates. Obviously, we still have to engineer product to market fit. We're going to do this in the challenge as well, especially in the school challenge. I'm showing you exactly how to borrow brands if you don't have your own brand yet, but it needs to be informed from that big, big vision. Otherwise, the chance of you hitting something is there, but the chance of you hitting something long term in a sustainable way and really building something bigger is very, very low. Okay, so when your brand is anchored in who you're becoming, you get never boxed in. As your role model self evolves, your brand evolves with it. And it's the only foundation that's truly sustainable. Let me see if I made sense before I go into the contemplations. So true when we cage ourselves to something from which we've grown. Yes. Really valuable wisdom talk through a stream. Thank you so much. I like Alex Ramosi, but I do get triggered by the workhorse attitude because I value a balance, although I do work hard. I have to be so mindful, like the information is so good, and I have to be so mindful to consume it in the right mindset, from the right place, paying really, really close attention to not fall out of how I want to do things. It's interesting, at least 25% of my saved social content is around tween and teen parenting advice and research. This speaks to some of my key values and the role I play as a mom for them. That is so interesting. And I think there's always, when we see where we're paying attention, there's parallels to how we can create value, right? For other people, there's often so many parallels we can draw from that phase where we're serving and learning and educating ourselves right now that can create in so many other value in so many other places of our journey. So this is something I would definitely put on there and pay a lot of attention to. Okay, let me go back into the contemplations here with you. Now, as you look through your saved content and consumption patterns, what surprises you? Lara just shared something that surprised her. What keeps appearing that you hadn't consciously acknowledged? Can you drop something in the chat? Did you see anything in your consumption patterns that you have not acknowledged? I'm going to go through my consumption patterns. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy to my watch history. Oh, yes, there's actually one that I hadn't paid attention to. There is this guy, he's called Louis Rossmann. And Louis Rossmann, I hadn't paid attention to this, but this is something that needs to get on my board. So he's actually a rights of ownership activist that has set up a few really amazing nonprofit projects for where they put out a bounty for when companies violate people's right to ownership. And now this sounds complicated, but let me give you an example. So it's people that, for example, buy smart home devices, and then the smart home device company makes a firmware update, basically making the device unusable unless the person who already bought and paid for the device opts in for a monthly subscription. So he sets out these bounties for people to break those digital locks, not share it. It's optional for them to share it because there's like a legal thing. But then they put the companies under pressure by saying, we have created a solution to make this usable again. Will you release this to your community? So it's like a huge advocate for consumer rights. And he also, for example, right now informs about the AI cameras that are installed in various states in the United States and the laws that are coming out that prevent basically people, for example, from protecting their numbers plates, etc. So and I've listened to so much of his stuff, and it feels completely unrelated to everything that I do. But what I absolutely love about this man is his integrity, how he uses his repair business and what is going well to mobilize people in the right way. Like, to me, he's a true activist, and how he uses the YouTube platform is absolutely incredible. And I think why this is important for my role model self is also because I want to be more of an activist when it comes to helping people be a better online educator, be a better online coach, right? So I deeply believe that our formal education systems are not ready for what's to come. And as a mother, our children will not be equipped for this future. In fact, most children and parents will not be equipped for the future. So informal education, because of the speed that and the free marketplace that it has, I think is the best alternative, but it has a ton of problems. And I want to talk about these problems, and I want to address them, and I want to give people tools to become a better educator. I want to become a better educator myself. And so I love looking at him and seeing, how does he use his platform? Does he educate people? How does he talk about topics? What does he do? How does he also enroll his community into these solutions? Brilliant, brilliant man. Very, very inspiring for me. I did not have him on the radar, but I watched like so many things of him over the Christmas period, right? And so that's that part. Obviously, I'm also learning a ton about what's going on with surveillance, about what's going on with the rights of ownership, but it doesn't personally touch me as much. But what really touches me is like his passion and his integrity and how he builds things. So also found something new in here. What did you guys find? I shall move on when I have at least one comment of somebody who found something surprising. You guys leave me hanging here. I give you a little bit more time going through another contemplation question then. Okay. If you described the person your consumption patterns reveal, you're becoming, who are they? What do they care about? And then, where have you felt boxed in by a version of yourself that no longer fits? So, for example, for my version, if I describe the person, I also, for example, watch a ton of CoffeeZilla, expose videos, legal videos. If I would think about that person, that it's truly revealing what I admire, it is actually people that are outspoken and have opinions and talk about. I feel like with my content and with what I've been expressing, I always very much stay in the safe zone of a tutorial, right? I don't do a lot of opinionated content. I don't do a lot of, which I definitely want to change this year. I don't do a lot of my predictions, my opinion. Um, I don't do a lot of investigative things, which is what I find most valuable. So right now, I'm always kind of in that safe space of providing how to, rather than also sharing my perspectives a little bit more, maybe even aggressively, a little bit, maybe not aggressively, I would say boldly. And then, where have you felt boxed in a version that no longer fits you? So, definitely in the realm of the marketing for coaches, when it was just that I felt like that the marketing for coaches I naturally had a lot of membership owners, content creators, educators, personal development enthusiasts that would just call themselves for a lack of having the proper vocabulary and education. Um, and that was kind of feeling a little bit all over the place. And then the deeper integration to also we cannot like the best marketing can never out advertise a bad offer, and the best offer can only be created because I care about being ethical in a way that it actually describes what you get, and what you get will depend on the experience, skill, knowledge, care, diligence, education somebody has put in them what they get, right? So for me, I felt boxed in by helping people with the marketing because I was like, we actually need to back integrate because otherwise we're just putting lipstick on a pig and it actually doesn't work like that. So for me, what the just helping people marketing felt like a big, like a super tiny box. I felt so helpless in there, and I wanted to make sure I'm doing it in an ethical way. So I had to back integrate, back integrate, back integrate, and always try to be the role model for that. And as I did that, also learn and also level up. And I still have so much learning and up leveling to do in that regard. So that's something that I definitely felt super boxed in, and that just doesn't longer fit. Is just being the marketing person for it. I also want to be the person that back integrates to all of these skills, all the way down to how do I become a better learner? How do I become a better educator? How do I teach effectively? How do I train my own critical thinking skills? How do I train my own taste? How do I, become really efficient working with AI? So it's all the way like back integrating to my own skill development and spiritual development as a human person, etc. Because all of these things they flow into here. So that's for example here. Now let me see. Something came up for someone. No, thank you so much for sharing. Okay. I consume a ton of human design content and always compare my expertise to theirs. I realized I'm not supposed to be like them. I've created my own niche that doesn't have to look like theirs. I love that. And often you can say, what about their things is good? What do I like? What about the things do I not like? Where do they not go maybe deep enough or not wide enough? Where do they not tailor it to an audience that I deeply understand? So it's really, really great when you actually look at other people and you see, how are you comparing? Because that's the way to find your positioning. That's literally how you can write your positioning statement, is how do you relate to those other people? I've saved videos. My saved videos seem to revolve around four main themes: business, creativity, health, food recipes, and relationship to God. I love that. And I think there will be a really, really beautiful way in which you can fit these things together. I found that I miss traveling so much. It gave me a feeling of freedom. Thank you so much for sharing. So maybe that needs to go on your vision board for 2026. Also, a lot of AI, Kabbalah. Very interesting. Similar to Lara, I have many pictures of my husband and son's construction equipment business and how it's so important to help them be a part of growing that too. That's beautiful. And there might be a part of you documenting how you help them, which can translate in, your helping them can help many other people if you document it. I've been researching a lot of things in the Japanese culture, the concept of omotenashi recently, and I think my interest in it is caused by a desire to be the way in my business. I love that. Very cool. It's also really cool because when I think of the offer development, that's a borrowed brand that you can lean into. Boxed in, doing what I think I should be doing and what people say I should be doing rather than stepping back and really understanding what I want to do and what matters for me. Massive changes. Mine are also around online business, growing a YouTube channel. Okay. business and my Christian faith and creativity. Very cool. I followed two of them. Two I have heard of Brooke coming. Oh, cool. Makes a ton of sense. Oh, yes, I love that. These bits tying back to our personal brand. Beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for sharing, guys. Couple more contemplation questions, and then we actually have moved through the meatiest part. But this is something, for you maybe to schedule a time, maybe once a month, you take an inventory of your consumption and you explore what is in there for me, right? Why do I feel so drawn to that? What about this inspires me? What about this do I want to consciously shape me? And what do I want to be mindful of to not let it shape me, right? Okay, so when you imagine consulting your role model self before a difficult decision, what does that conversation look like? So now I maybe just want to give you, we will actually pull a token for this at the end, but maybe it's the right thing to do it, to offer it as a solution right now. So when you consult your role model self, it can be really, really helpful to have a visualization of that in your mind. What does it look like to consult them? So, for example, does that mean you open up that vision board and you look at it and you feel in and you talk to that part of that vision board? Is it maybe an actual version of you, like a mirror image, but she or he looks the part, radiates the part, and you actually talk to them, right? So, can you actually like visualize them? Or maybe, and this is what I do you have a token that you use to connect? And for me, it always, my background is in jewelry. I always used jewelry as a token to connect with it. So, for example, I bought myself this necklace in Vancouver, which is like a necklace we had in a store that I really wanted, couldn't afford at that time. And so when I consult, I will, use this as my token and consult myself, because for me, I'm not massively like a visual thinker. I'm more thinking in words. So I use a token like this to consult. So what would be for you? Think of like a way, how would you consult? Maybe it's a cup of, maybe you have a cup you really love where you're like, I could actually show you one of mine. Where it's like, this is my role model cup, like, because this is the exact cup that she would use. Like, it's perfect. So maybe you have a cup where you're like, this is the exact perfect cup for me, or maybe you want to buy one, right? So it doesn't have to be jewelry or something, like whatever. But think about, like, maybe it's you making a cup of coffee or tea in that cup and be like, okay, let's have a chat. I need your help. Okay, so think about ways in which you could say, how do I consult? What's my ritual for consulting? What's my go-to when I need to hear that version? And how do I want to cultivate it? What's the commitment I want to make? Once a month, do I want to go through my things and see what do I need to add? Why is it so top of mind? What is the entertainment in this, right? What's the pull towards that? And then put it there and add it maybe on the vision board. All right, so we are moving to the next section in the vision board. And that section here is our ordinary Tuesday. Okay, so for our ordinary Tuesday, like I said, most vision boards, they focus on the highlight reels, the award ceremony, a vacation, a big launch, but you don't live in highlight moments. You live in ordinary Tuesdays, in ordinary regular days. So the question is, what is not what do I want to achieve? It's what do I want my ordinary Tuesdays to feel like? So you can, again, pick images and items from here. Sorry, I tried to also give you some items that would maybe, flutter around on your desk, and maybe images here or your own images, right? But think about this, like, what would your average Tuesday morning look like? Would you start it with a coffee? Would you get like maybe get up early, or would you say like my rule is I always sleep in till I wake up naturally? What does it look like? The perfect, regular, ordinary Tuesday. Your workspace. Where does your role model self work? How do you have it set up? What do you allow around yourself? Right? What makes that space you? Then your midday. Do you take breaks? How often do you take breaks? What do your breaks look like? What do you eat? What do you snack on? Do you make a second coffee or a first one? Or you don't drink coffee at all because that's not good for you? Maybe get yourself a tea or water, or maybe you put, like some people put berries and fruits and stuff in their water. It makes them really, really happy. I really appreciate when the people do stuff like that. So how do you have your breaks, and do you take time for lunch? How do you eat? Do you scroll on your phone and just stuff something in while working on the laptop? Is that okay? Is that meeting your standard? Or do you actually take time? How much time do you want to take? Do you want to move? Maybe you work from the treadmill a little bit, or maybe you go outside while having a call, or maybe you don't move at all there. Maybe you go later to the gym. What does that look like? Now, how do you wind down? When is work done? What are your working hours? Do you have fixed working hours? Is that important to you? How do you communicate that with people in your life, in your relationships? How do you set expectations around your work? How do you claim that space? Maybe you're alone. Maybe this is the time where you say, I don't have to justify anything for anyone, and I deliberately enjoy that. Or maybe you say, I'd like to actually set boundaries for myself. What does ending the work and winding things down look like? Do you debrief your day? Do you clean up the desk? Do you write a list for tomorrow? Or do you just shut down and get out? In the more in the what do your relationships look like in the work, with your customers, your clients, your peers, with your allies? Who do you mastermind with? Who do you consult? How are you showing up for yourself and others? How do you set the boundaries between focused work and, maybe leaving some school comments or going on social media? Do you set a timer when you work? Do you use any productivity techniques? You know that I recommend the daily self management, which we're going to do in the challenge. But for now, I just want you to think about like, what's like for you coming up? How do you want to work? And then, how do we wind down in the evening? Do you shower in the evening? Do you work out in the evening? What's for dinner? What's after dinner? Do you put everything away right away? Do you have a private chef that cooks your meals? Do you order on one of those delivery services? Do you meal prep for the week? When do you do your groceries? Do you do your groceries yourself still? How do you take care of yourself? What do you wear? Do you dress up for working when you work at home? Or do you still go to your day job and then you work in the evening? How do you structure that? And what are the small moments you integrate? How to make things fun? Maybe, when do you turn up music for certain parts of your work? What do you share? So this is really arriving into the life design and how we want to get there. And we want to maybe feel in and connect a little bit back. We have, for example, maybe we have that version of ourselves that is like really fit. So then we have to think about how would our food and nutrition play into this? And how will we organize that? It's not things we have to answer like right away. It's things that we have to feel into, right? So there, like we saw that that person is made up of consumption, and it's the media we consume, but it's also the environment we consume, the relationships we consume, the conversations we have, the people we seek out on a day-to-day basis. It's what goes into our body, not only the food, but also from a sleep perspective, from a rest perspective, from a movement perspective. What are the building blocks? What has to feed into that version as the input to manifest? And that is made on a day-to-day basis. So what should that day-to-day look like realistically? And maybe what would you need to give up as well? What can we not allow anymore to consume us because we consume it? Let me see how you feel. Trying to have you feel something here. I love the idea of an ordinary day. Our life is made up of those mostly, right? That's the trickle, the consistent action that actually creates the reality. So we have an ordinary day test here as well. If your vision only includes peak moments, which was my personal struggle with most vision building exercises all along, you want to ask yourself, can I actually sustain what I'm envisioning? Many aspiring existing entrepreneurs, creators, community owners, they build towards a vision they actually cannot live. They achieve the milestone and then they realize it isn't what they thought. And I'm the best example of this. Played the school games, won 2 Karma Club award, burned myself out, realized that it's absolutely utterly meaningless once you reach it. So you burn yourself out getting there because the daily grind was never something you could sustain. That's just like a big argument is for finding a rhythm for you that's actually sustainable. We build our business around our role model self in that journey because it's deeply integrated into all areas of our life. So we're not building a business that might be successful, but then we're looking around and we're like, oh, what happened to the rest of our life? What happened to my body? What happened to my relationships? What happened to the years where my children are young? What happened to my parents that maybe now are getting old? What happened to my environment in my house? Like, who's the person in the mirror looking back? So we don't try to build a money business because we think a money business will solve the problems, but then when we have money, we realize all the other problems are still there. So we're not trying to build a money business. We're trying to build a business from that path to our most actualized self across all the areas of life because it's sustainable, right? Because it's actually integrated. And then we also need to ask ourselves, what are we inputting, right? From the consumption perspective, from the day-to-day consumption perspective, and what's a cadence we can live? What's a rhythm we can live? How do we need to schedule in the breaks, right? What does that life actually look like on an unremarkable day? And how can we make the unremarkable days so nice for us that we say, looking back, this was our highlight reel. I woke up every single day and I absolutely loved it. Just love getting that specific mug. I loved starting my day like this. I loved interacting with my clients in that way. I loved building the things I built. I loved sticking to the commitments I made. So proud of myself into every single day. I cherished every moment was open. Right? You have so many more days that are just like this, then you have days where you look back at your work and you're proud. And that pride that lasts a moment. Nothing we build will last. So it's all about enjoying this journey and being conscious of it, being and experiencing it. Right? So I'm now at 9 million in revenue, but I asked this question in the Scaled Self workshop. Imagine somebody offers you $8 million. Do you want it? Most people would hesitate because they would ask what strings are attached. What if, making 8 million in your business until 2030, what if it would cost you all of your time that you would never get back? What if it costs your body years, your nervous system, and it creates damage that you can never fully restore? What if it costs you your relationships? You're barely present with people you say you were doing this for. What if it costs you your peace of mind? You replace your peace of mind with anxiety, hypervigilance, exhaustion, your integrity. What if you wake up and you don't recognize who you are anymore? What if you look at your business and you do things you're not proud of, that are self-serving? You're like, what are we creating? Right? So we need to be very, very mindful of that. And I can tell you from the experience, I had now 66,000 customers. I've worked with tens of thousands of people. People will find ways to burn successful things down if they're costing them too much. So we don't want to set you up for self-sabotage. We want to build from a really, really integrated place. And I've not done too much damage to my relationships and body and integrity over the years. I'm actually proud of how I held myself. But there's still, looking back, there are things I could have been so much more mindful of. Could have treated my body so much better. Could have been a much better mother, a much better partner. Don't try to beat myself up for it about it, but I try to this year get a step closer to doing this better, right? So being very, very mindful of it. Okay. When you know what your ordinary day looks like for your role model self, you now have a compass to make decisions. Would they be doing this at 10 p.m.? Would they skip lunch for this? Would they miss this moment for that notification? There's your ideal life is built in those small moments where you make the choice. If even and you want to be mindful, design your systems for that, right? Know when your phone is mute, know where you do not respond to, right? But it's like sometimes I can see half of a message from something, for example, on school, and I'm like, oh, if I open this now, I'll go on a tangent. I'll try to troubleshoot here. My nervous system is triggered. I feel like it feels so urgent, like I need to do something here. And I can click on it and lose my day, or I can stay with myself and I can give this the attention it deserves based on the decision I made before. We want to define these things while we're calm and while we're clear and while we're conscious, so that in those moments, those everyday moments, we can say, I'm not making the sacrifice. I know to choose differently, right? I'm not making the sacrifice to not sleep because, I have to get this ready. I have to get this perfect. Not making that sacrifice to leave abandoning the vision for my business because I saw a shiny object and that there I believe I can make money quicker. Stay the path. I stay the path because I now have the clarity to validate against it, right? So ideally, you also want to close your eyes, and I think it's so helpful because visualizing, again, I think is so hard. Tapping into that feeling of that Tuesday and trying to see if you can settle in where it feels just right. And see if you can anticipate the level of awareness and anticipate challenges. And maybe even visualize yourself overcoming those, right? Maybe your partner says something that triggers you because it's devaluing all the effort you put in, right? And you're smiling over it. Are grateful that you're doing well enough so they don't have to understand. Or resting in your knowing that you're on the right path and you've planted the seed, like Amanda gave the beautiful example, and that it is growing under the soil. And soon enough, you'll not have to prove yourself with words. It will just manifest. Like being so calm and collected within yourself. You get that notification and you don't respond to it. You make a note that after you finished with what you currently are committed to, you can have a look. If that's true for you, right? If those are your challenges, think of what challenges could come up, how you want to show up, handle them like a pro that you are. And then I also want you to visualize the small moments that are actually making your life meaningful. So maybe it's waking up to that message of the person that says, you know what, I really needed what you gave me yesterday. Or you don't know me, but your video has changed my life. Or I am so grateful for the people that are here in this space that you created. Or maybe you created a product and people are like, this is so beautiful. I'm so excited to have this. Maybe it's a rating you get. Or maybe it's also just the joy of you completing something and looking at it and absolutely loving it. Maybe it's the excitement about solving a problem, a nut you tried to crack for a really long time. Maybe it's you getting that first sale from a Facebook ad, although you never thought you were able to do this. It's having those aha moments about yourself and saying, hey, look, I am now a person who does that. I've published 10 YouTube videos. I'm a YouTuber now. Wow. Like think of the small things, and those are just like some business things. But maybe it's also how your family responds to it. Maybe it is that you can help out a family member. Maybe it's that you can buy yourself food in the supermarket that you would, always look at the price and now you don't look anymore. Maybe it is that you can go out for a long walk on a Tuesday because you just feel like it. Maybe it's that you have enough time to take care of your body, whatever it is. What are those small moments that make it meaningful? And then just take on your thinking cap, what does your role model self's relationship with rest look like? With food, with the people they love, with work, with consuming content, all kinds of things, right? So that's what we really want to have in mind, and that's what we want to measure our daily decisions against. Feeling like it's possible this year, focused and excited for what's to come with a simplified system. I love that. Okay, we have our ordinary Tuesday. Now we are going to who guides me. And here we can move a little bit quicker because I already talked quite a bit about this. But basically what we want to capture here, and here you just have to look up their name, take a screenshot, pop them on there in whichever frame you like, right? But we want to answer this to this section with images of people where we say we're looking to these people for business guidance, right? And as we're putting their image there, we want to say what specifically we admire about their approach. We want to also have, who do I look for health and body guidance, right? What draws me in there? Who do I look for relationships? What can I learn from them? And so, for example, for relationships, I personally don't follow a coach or a creator for my intimate relationship, but for example, I look to my grandparents, I look to my dad, I look to other people that have relationship habits that I find like really inspiring, and I look at them. The same is for business. I look at, for example, my business partner Jessa. I admire her. I love how she builds things. I also look, for example, to Lara, right? I admire her excellence, her rigor that she brings into coaching. So it can be mentors, like in that parasocial sense that we have, but it can also be our coaches that we maybe have hired. In my business, I just hired a coach that helps me with short form content because it's a completely different skill to write like that. And so I look to him for that kind of guidance. Um, Maybe you have a personal trainer. Maybe you have a person in your life that's just very fit and they just live, the way that you admire them. Who do you look to for creativity? What inspires you there? And with creativity, I don't mean have to be, if you now have to be into drawing and painting if you're not all that. But creativity can also mean like who creates in their business. May that be content or products in a way that inspires you. And again, this can be a peer, etc., in business, but it can also be a figure that inspired you. Like for example, you can be inspired by how Da Vinci created and how he worked. Who do you look for meaning and purpose? Who are your spiritual guides? Your faith? Who do you listen to? There's certain prayers or preachers you listen to. And then you want to note down where you diverge from your mentors. So you want to find images or words representing values that don't align with yours. And this is not to devalue them. This is just to be mindful that you are unique. Your situation is unique. And you have a vision for such a bold life that you don't need the one mentor. You need a whole squad of mentors. And you can make everything and anything and any story your mentor with the right thing, with the right filter. Right. So there's so much to learn and we need so much support. And at the same time, we also want to create that awareness for being so centered and educated and equipped and anchored in ourselves that we can receive that mentorship and that guidance in a way that is helping us to further self-actualize in our full integrity, that's not infringing on our integrity, that's not pushing something on us that is not ours. Now, how to use external mentors well? What we want to do is we want to extract the underlying principles. So not the exact methods, but what is the underlying principle? Then we want to ask, how do I execute these principles in alignment with my values? And then you want to use your role model self as a filter. Would they do it this way? And then you take what serves and you leave what doesn't without the guilt. And there are a few contemplation questions. Maybe before I quickly want to share with you a video that might be helpful for you. If you struggle with taking from your mentors in a way that is truly aligned with you, there's a video where I teach you assimilation skills. So you might want to check this out if this is an area you struggle with. And I realized this year that a lot of people are struggling with this. And it was also something I had to become conscious and more skilled of myself. So this might be helpful for you. For the contemplation here for this section, we have you want to think of a mentor you admire. Again, a mentor can be an actual coach, mentor, consultant you have hired or that helps you out for free. It can be a parasocial mentor. It can be a person that doesn't even know that they are your mentor, right? It can be a role model in that sense for you. And you want to ask yourself, what did you try to copy? How well did that work for you? Where have you felt friction between what they say they do and what feels right for you? What values do your mentors hold that don't align with yours? And what does that reveal about what you value? And then what would it look like to extract the principles while executing in your own way? Again, so I just want you to maybe again, like visualize this. You are here, your role model self is wherever you put them last. Maybe it's in a coffee mug, maybe it's in a necklace, maybe it's in this cloud, maybe you have them very well visualized next to you. And then you have your set of mentors and influences for your life, right? And we want to see like, what do I admire? What do I desire? And then we want to say, okay, what are they actually doing? What's the underlying principle? You also can perfectly use large language models for that. For example, if you have a YouTube video where somebody explains something, etc., you can put it into the large language model, the transcript, and say, what is the underlying principle of what they're doing and why does it work? Right? And then you can investigate based on the values you can extract from your vision board. How can I do this in a way that it aligns with my values? Right? How do I do it in a way that aligns with my values? And then you experiment, you see how it feels, you see if you need to adjust it, right? So we can learn so much from others, and we want to do that. Others have so much lived experience, so much wisdom, so much insight. They role model so beautifully for others, but we always want to remember that first off, we have that resource, but then also that we run it through a filter. We truly assimilate, we digest, we make it ours before we express again. And the beautiful thing is, if you're building product, that assimilation process of making something truly yours will also solve problems for people that have similar values, that want to get to the same destination, but they do not have a way for them to get to the destination that is in alignment with their values. So your assimilated approach can be a solution for people that do not know how to do it themselves in alignment with values that they share with you. All right, so that was this section of the vision board. Let me check in with you. Oh yeah, 100%. Let me just quickly get it. Good call. I'm dropping it here in the chat. So it should come up here for you. All right, so in this next section, we want to think about the transformation, right? So we now already have quite a few resources and tools. We know the overall approach that we want to take to things. We also know who we are becoming, what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, who guides us, right? So we have the attitude, we have the North Star and the guide. We have a squad of guides. We know what our day-to-day needs to look like to walk that path. Now let's look at that path a little bit more, right? So now is that time of the journey where we want to zoom in and we want to say, what would I actually need to work on for that path to manifest, right? So when I think it's always easiest when you have an example. When I now look at my role model self, the version I can reach that's the farthest out, what she is she is an online educator helping people to monetize their personal growth journey with AI through ethical marketing. And it can only be ethical because it's all the way back integrated to helping them make a good product. And because they monetizing their personal growth journey, their identity is part of their product. So it also help them become better people in a sense of who they think is the best person, right? So it's like all the way back integrated. Now, what for me, in order to do that really well, what would my journey needs to look like? Well, first off, I have to role model this myself really well. So I will have to be very, very good at becoming that best version of myself, acquiring those skills that they need to acquire in a sense of self knowledge, critical thinking, learning skills, teaching skills, coaching skills, AI skills, marketing skills, right? So it's like, okay, I have to upskill massively, right? And then I also have to document my journey so people can see that I am the guide. So this is where I will have to document that upskilling, and I have to be clear about my vision of helping others to learn in these areas, become, empowered through upskilling themselves and their taste as a human, but also their skills with the eyes. I have to be clear about that, create content around that, and also create offers around that. So that is the journey. I have to really walk to the outside, upskilling, documenting the upskilling, productizing the upskilling, and being clear about where we're headed. That's the transformation that I have to walk, right? And so what does that look like for me? And so a few questions is like, there can be a photo of my past self where I feel like I came from. And that can be all the way from, me being stuck in the formal learning system, realizing that back then, even digital marketing and Facebook ads, the formal system was just way too slow for what was actually needed. Then having the first positive experience with the One Funnel Away challenge, learning the practical side of digital marketing, but then also seeing the shadow parts of that industry, and now having that vision for helping others, right? And then also from the other angle of that journey, right? So knowing how to teach people marketing, but then running into an ethical dilemma because people don't have enough good product and skills and personnel, like the human that they are, to really, really make that happen. And with the human that they are, it's also the skills of executing it. It's the productivity skills, the self-regulation skills, the nervous system management, the vision, right? So like realizing all of those gaps, and then also becoming aware of my own gaps in that area, right? So it's like I have to think about like my past self and now that role model self, which parts of that story, like what's the arc, how does the arc connect? So you really want to think about that, and maybe it helps you to have a visual metaphor of yourself. So maybe you see a path or a bridge or a door or a staircase or a river or sun rising, or you see it climbing. When I think of this, I always think a little bit like of a mountain, and climbing one mountain to see that I climbed the wrong mountain. And so for me, it's like it's mountains to climb, to have the vision from the mountain to see where I should be going. So maybe it helps you to make that visual metaphor in your head. Maybe there's a before and after that really resonates with you. That's a good visual. For me, always the seed and the sprouts and the tree. That was a visual that always worked really well for me. I really love this because it's in alignment with what I think about self-actualization, right? So the seed has all the information, the DNA, the essence of the tree in itself. So I love the unfolding in integrity. That's like a really strong visual for me. maybe there's something for you that really captures the before and after. And then maybe something in progress that kind of captures where you are right now. So when I had did this for my vision board, I was thinking of, I am the sprout that has sprouted. I'm clearly out. It's clearly alive. Just with my personal brand, it's clearly alive. And I have even blossoms, but the blossoms have not shown their color yet. So I feel like it's time to blossom up and fully reveal. So my state of that journey here is like in that blossom state before the flower has revealed. So people can say something is alive. It is definitely growing, but I do not see the representation of it. I do not know which category to put it in. And that's where I feel like, that going bolder is the key, not hiding behind tutorials, really showing the mission, really sharing the vision, and documenting boldly, opinionated from that place. Um, Emergence or breakthrough, right? So for me, like that breakthrough that I want to put is like when it really blooms, when it really shows its colors, and where you're currently growing into. So it's not a destination, but the next version ahead, right? So for me, the next version ahead starts to declare a few things through the content and through starting to also show more opinions and basically not hiding behind the how to's too much. So I find it easier with an example. What are these things for you? What's your bridge? What are your story arcs from your before to the after? Where does it just make so much sense and fit all together? And then what metaphor does that do you need a metaphor? It's optional. When you think of the before and after, what resonates with you and what's the current stage you're in? So that's what we want to put here in the transformation. Hello, hello. What part of the journey, when you think of that role model self that you can reach, what part of the journey do you feel like you're in? If you were just saying a seed, a sprout before blossom, you started to blossom, right now it's about growth. Where do you feel like in the journey right now? If you had to select one stage. Caterpillar to butterfly, I love this. Such a beautiful one. What I love about the caterpillar to butterfly analysis is that the caterpillar completely dissolves when it is in the cocoon pupa phase, and then it completely reassembles. So what I really love about this metaphor is that part of when you move towards that role model self, there's parts of the current self that you kind of leave behind. And the interesting thing is that you also have to grieve those parts that you're giving up there. That was an interesting thing for me. And I always thought that there's something wrong with it. But it's also maybe an angle to think which parts of you will not make it through 2026, right? Which when a reptile grows, it sheds the skin, right? Which parts of you will you with appreciation lay down? A lot of ideas coming up while listening. Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, I don't want to rush you. So, feel free to hit the pause button and then catch up with the replay later. Just also want to be conscious of the time here. Okay, so transformation is a competitive advantage. Nobody has your path. Nobody else has your exact starting point, and nobody else has your exact destination. And nobody else walks the path the way you do. This means that you are, if you're following the role model approach, are always a market of one, with a solution for a market of one. So your differentiation isn't something you need to manufacture. It emerges naturally from that transformation path that you are on towards your role model self. All those struggles and desires that you have, right? So I think a lot of us might have had something around their body in the content that they saved or consumed. A lot of us might have had something around business on there. A lot of us might have had something spiritual, and we might have very, very similar desires and very, very similar struggles if we boil it all the way down to the essence, because that's what makes us human. But nobody has the same starting and end point as you. And nobody walks the path the way you do because of your upbringing and your values and your beliefs. You have all of these different micro nuances in how you think about things, how you approach things, how you action things. And so that's why you will always be a market of one that does not have any competitors, even if you help people with the exact same things. Let's say you teach people how to edit YouTube videos. You might think, how do I differentiate myself? The answer is in your journey towards your role model self, because you might teach people editing because your journey is that you actually want to build an editing agency. So you might start teaching people editing, but soon enough, as you walk your path to manifesting who you will become, you will actually naturally share more content and resources and products around how you're building the agency and how you approach this. And suddenly people have all of the documentation journey. People that might have started with editing and now want to have their agency, they can see that you are modeling this path perfectly. And maybe you're doing it as a young guy from Thailand, or you're doing it as a grandma, right? Who actually wanted to get into YouTube herself, but the part that she enjoyed was editing. And now she built a really cool editing agency business to supplement her retirement income, right? It can be, and you'll speak to two completely different audiences. You'll attract two completely different avatars with the exact same solution, and they will absolutely love you and appreciate you for that, because they can see themselves in your journey and they can align with your values. And it could even be that one of the young guys that you would intuitively think is better suited for the young guy actually prefers to learn from the grandma because of her pace and her tone and for her wisdom, right? So you will always have a market of one, which you also have to really leverage, because we're entering the marketplace era of anything. The physical products always was marketplace. You see how crazy the competition for a business planner on Amazon is. My business planner only sells because I have a personal brand, right? Because I can stand out. Now, the same will be true for, and is already true for, content creation. Instagram and YouTube are marketplaces for content creation where people can filter, and the algorithms go towards the interest graph. So people find those highly individualized pieces of content that are a perfect fit for them, because the algorithms are optimized for that because of AI. They used to optimize for retention, which is when they first favored all of those gimmicky retention hacks and hooks, etc., until big tech found out that the true retention is found in relevancy. So now you're getting served what is most relevant. So you doubling, tripling down on what makes you unique in your journey towards your role model self also helps your audience find you better, also helps those marketplaces and platforms to bring you in front of the right audience. So that's why you need to be focused on it. We even see it with ads, with the Andromeda updates. It's all about becoming a fit for those audiences because you are that market of one that has a lot of people that resonate with it. School is becoming a marketplace. Right now, you can have a community and you can still be, 1 out of 5 or 10 communities in that space. Or sometimes you even 1 out of 1 or 2 because the marketplace still is relatively new. It will grow. There will be more quote unquote competition around competing solutions. But if it's built from your role model self around your personal brand, around your transformation journey, you will have no competition because nobody can be you with all your beautiful, weirdly but beautifully arranged and set of skills and solutions that just totally make sense, but nobody could have thought of it. It just naturally emerged. Okay. Your audience is always your past self. So the one that struggled with what you're figuring out now, that is your audience. It's not a demographic, right? It's not somebody who seeks that specific solution. It's your past self. So whoever who resonates with parts of your past or future or your trajectory automatically is in your market, right? Not everybody in Grow with Evelyn is like I was in the past, right? But a lot of people face similar parts of the journey and have very aligned values like I have, which is why they are part of my audience and which is when they are lifers. I have so many students that are just lifers. They're like, I will just go wherever you go because we have that value alignment. We're on the same page, right? We want to do good. We want to do better. We want to make it about more than ourselves. Right? We want to do things ethically and deliberately, and we're ambitious and we want to be excellent in what we do. And we have value alignment across like many, many dimensions. And there's many shared pieces of the journey where I can be of service, which is why they are customers for life, which is why I'm not concerned about where the world is going with AI, right? And I want the same for you. Okay. When you build from your transformation, something really powerful happens. Your current challenges become your competitive advantage. Like I showed you in the transformation, what you need to do to get there becomes your documentation, becomes your content, becomes your offers, becomes your products, right? And that again can be digital products. It can also be physical products, right? It can also be physical products. It doesn't have to be only digital products. It can also be physical products. And when you do market commoditized physical products, you as a person need to be such an inspiration, and the physical products need to feel like such an extension of you and your journey. That's when they will really, really sell. We also see influencers trying to sell things that are not relevant for their brand and for their journey and for how the audience perceives it. And then it also doesn't work. Then they feel like a sellout because it has to have that alignment with your identity and with who you're becoming, what you're representing in that regard. The problems you solve for yourself become the problems your business addresses, right? So again, let's think of something commoditized like the lipstick, like the beauty. The appearance in this case is a problem the influencer solves for themselves. If you think about it, if you have they have the lip things that, okay, how does that work? So you have these lip things, you put them on, they burn, and then you get like bigger looking lips. That's a problem they had, right? And then they solved it for themselves, and now their audience solves it, right? So you always want to think about the best selling products for you will always be productized what you wanted. You did that, you got that solution, and now you make it accessible to others. So your personal breakthroughs unlock revenue opportunities that truly feel aligned for your audience. And when the offers feel aligned, you do not feel like a sellout. It just makes sense. And your audience is grateful that you let them in on your solutions rather than they feel like, oh, I'm always being sold to, right? Your development work doubles as business development. So most people work on their business, then their personal brand, then themselves. So it's all in silos, right? So it's like what a good question we had today, right? People make a vision board for their personal life. Then they make a vision board for the business or work to finance that personal life. And then, they work on a personal brand that builds that business that then should build their life. That just does not make any sense. What's the life you want to build? You walking towards that and productizing that journey becomes the business, right? So it's all integrated and it feeds itself. There's true synergy. You don't operate in silos. You do one thing. You are one thing. And that's that point. There's a few people in the space that will tell you, you get paid for who you are. And they are right. I am at this point, and I've been for a few years at this point. I really get paid for who I am and for what I want to do. I desperately want to do this. I did this in my holidays. I prepared for this and I had the biggest fun ever. And I incorporated my husband who helped me with these items and my son who helped me with. We had a blast. At this point, my life feels like I am getting paid for who I am and who I want to become. And that's the beauty of when you start to think like this about your system, then you build something that is truly synergetic and with that sustainable. Okay, so here we want to contemplate. So like I want to drive this home. When you work on all of these together, they become the same activity. Becoming the best version of you is also building your business, right? So making money, building a standout brand, and becoming who you want to be, it's the same activity. It's the exact same activity. Contemplation. What have you already overcome that once felt impossible? If your past self from 3 years ago could see you now, what would amaze them? What transformation are you currently in, which is not finished, but it's still unfolding? And how might your specific challenges become exactly what qualifies you to help others? Let me see in the chat, how you guys feeling? I love this. So much to think about and implement. Thank you. Thank you so much. In a place of the spark catching hold on the newspaper on fire, loving this workshop. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right, so that's the big idea of the role model self as the North Star. This is why we do the workshop, so that you can, if you have the planner or if you participate in the free planner challenge where you get some of the planner pages also as the pages to work through, so you have the right foundation, right? This is our approach. Remember, on our vision board, our approach informs everything. And the same is in business, right? Our approach to business informs everything that we do. And when we do it from this point with this clarity, we can build this very synergetic business that also keeps us competitive, right? That's the good thing about this is I'm not worried about becoming obsolete, etc., because this also has the future proofing myself and with that my business and with that my brand baked in. All right, so last but not least is what I am building. What goes on your board here? So in this section, because we will do the exact product building throughout the challenge where we really think about our offers. And if you're doing the school part of the challenge, we really will break it down into what type of classrooms can we break down from this journey, right? And so first, what type of school by zooming in on a specific part of the journey, and then within that, what type of classroom specific offers can we really build? For this part of the vision board, I want you to mostly focus on the feeling, on so of your offers, your community, the world that you're creating. And when I say your community, I don't mean that everybody who watches this workshop needs to have a school community. I believe that school is the ultimate container if you want to build a role model business, because you can do anything there. We sold our physical products on school first, right? And I have my Grow with Evelyn community and multiple communities. It's just a low tech, very moldable container to offer all of these things in a very frictionless, very quick way. But you do not have to have it. When I say your community, I also mean your audience. So in 2025, we were still talking a lot about our audience. We don't want to think about building an audience online anymore. We want to really think about building our community for our role model self. And it's a difference because with our audience, we used to just broadcast, right? And people would consume. But that was in times when a subscribe button, a follow button still had any meaning, because we were actually able to build an audience on a platform. And if somebody subscribed to us, it would mean that they would see future videos. And if somebody would follow us, it would mean that they see future pieces of content. But that is not the case anymore. Content is completely commoditized on platforms. So we do not build audiences there anymore. What we really need to build is a community around our content. And a community means that we build a segment of people that keep coming back to our things. And if you do not want to build a community on School, which I think is the easiest container, also because you can use it as an email list and you can use their hobby plan. If you don't want to do it there, you at least have to find some way to have people give you their email address, opt in. You can build many free lead magnets from your transformation. For people to opt in, but you have to build a community in a way of owned audience that you can re-reach when you want. When you post on School, all of your members will get a notification that you posted. You can 3 times a week, every 72 hours, you can toggle on that you send a post per email with really high deliverability, because email deliverability has gone to you know what this year because of spam and email providers really making their DMARC verification, spam rules, etc., much more rigorous, right? So email deliverability has gone down, but with the School posts, it has a very high deliverability because of the domain authority of School and their deliverability. So you can reach them, right? With an email list, if you do all of your settings correctly and you build up that reputation, you also can reach your audience, but you really, really have to build a community. I went a little bit on a tangent, but what I want you to think here on this vision board is what captures your journey in offers, in what you provide for your audience. What's the world you're creating for people? You want to start with feeling and experience, not with the actual logistics, right? Not with, oh, I will make this workshop and that workshop. Think about the feeling and the experience of being part of your world in whichever container, right? In whichever community container, email list, free community, paid community, certification program, course, right? So what is in whichever container, what's the feeling and the experience, right? So you want to find images that express the feelings you want your customer, community, formerly audience manager, member to have, what transformation you help them to achieve, right? So you look at your overall journey, right, of the things that you need to do. What are the things that you can already help them? What are the things that you think you'll be able this year to help them with? The aesthetics of your brand, you want to think of your colors, your texture, your energy, your values that are expressed in the visuals, in the tonality. How do you write things? How do you talk to people? How do you come across? How approachable are you? Are you eye to eye level with them? Do you still want to maintain like a certain level of authority? How accessible are you? The experience of working with you or being in your world, right? So how is it to directly work with you? Does it feel like a handshake or a hug, right? What is the experience of being in your community, right? What is the space? Is the space like really energized and motivating? Is it very comforting, very warm, very nurturing? Is it maybe even competitive? Is it driven? How do you engage with people that, ask questions, for example, on your YouTube channel or in your content? Are you very accessible, forgiving with everyone? Are you always present? Are you a little present? What impact do you have on their lives? Are you a big part of their lives? Are you a big part in a small area where you really make a difference? Are you someone they take on a walk? When they go for a walk, they listen to your thoughts. Or are you that person that when they struggle with something, you're only a tutorial away? Maybe you inspire them in a way that some of your mentors inspire you. Maybe you agitate them a little bit. There's personal brands out there that work like a lot with just being butt kicking. Maybe you do that for them. Maybe you kick their butts. Maybe you empower them. Maybe you teach them a lot or very specific skills. Maybe you shift their minds. What's the legacy you create with that? How does that impact them on a day-to-day basis? What does it allow them to do or do differently? How does it allow them to feel? And how does that affect the people around them? What happens to their lives? If you imagine your community, audience, customers, if you imagine them like an ocean and you're the drop, what waves do you make in their lives? How do you do that? When they watch a video of yours, when they read an email of yours, a post of yours, what does it do to them? How does it feel? What does it give them? How does it go beyond that? If you were not after 2026, what would you want to leave behind as a body of work? What would you want to leave behind as a product that is in people's homes, maybe every day or on their computer? How do people talk about your product? Okay, so I'm going to go into a teaching in a second. I just quickly want to check if you guys have any questions. My business is helping others to get divorced. I started this after I went through a divorce myself. How do I develop products through business development as my divorce is complete? So that's an excellent question. Now, when you're thinking of your role model self, and I just give you an example, right? You want to think of what is that most actualized version of yourself, and then also think like if this is still the field that is extremely valuable to you, you want to think of like the version of myself that is most capable of helping my customers, that is most powerful. What type of transformation does she drive? How does she help people? What type of solutions does she have? How does she engage? Typically, when we have already completed a journey, right, and we're on the risk of starting to feel boxed in because we're like feeling like, oh, it's always the same, we need to get closer to people and do a little bit more high access work. So we're fully drawn in back into the situation with the person. We have the full empathy of how it feels, but we also can see from the lens of where we're coming right now. And you'll see when you start to open up a little bit more high access work and you're going in, if you don't do that already, if you do that already, you might just need to put on a different lens when you go in. I just also opened up a few spots for high access work again after closing down my mastermind, because this is so important, because I'm at the same risk as you in certain areas of the transformation, right? You want to go in with that lens of what part of this can I see and solve more completely, even better, with bigger understandings, right? So there's in something that is so also so highly emotional and where there's so many nuances and aspects from that high proximity work, you'll be able to draw so many solutions. And just because I'm not a specialist in this, but it could be, for example, there's that you discover there's different needs at different timelines. Maybe there is when it just happened, there's like a quick rundown that you need to give them of, okay, here is the emergency map, here's how the timeline will unfold. And maybe you realize like just having that timeline spectrum for them will be really helpful. And maybe you realize, oh, it's not just a logistical timeline of how the divorce will work. Maybe it's also you partner up with a grief counselor, whatever. It's like, so here's like a typical grief timeline. Here's what you'll feel like emotionally, what you will go through. Here's some affirmations for each stage. Here's some worksheets for each stage, right? So you might find through the much closer work many more solutions of how you can help them through better. You might find topics that seem seemingly unrelated. We're like, well, actually, I have to dig deeper, right? So, for example, for me with marketing, I had to much dig deeper and had to go all the way to the root of the identity to say, now I can help you better market. Now, you might actually see like all the way through, it might get back to things like self-worth. And you want to have actually discussions around self-worth because your lack of self-worth is sabotaging how you're holding yourself through the divorce, right? So there, you want to be like open and curious and try to do a little bit more high proximity work to see that role model version of myself that is the best, the absolute world-class best in helping these women or men going through this time. What does that version of myself look like and do and provide based on the work with people that are very much in that stage? But now you can come in with a cool head, right? And you can maybe simplify and optimize and have productized solutions based on that. Just from like a pure product development perspective, there's a lot of things that I think can go into this, especially also maybe with teaming up with subject matter experts in related areas that you can then also have as, joint venture partners as well. A lot of women or men might want to start their own business after a divorce, right? So there's a lot of kind of crossover because a divorce is so disruptive across all areas of life. So the answer here lies in going closer in proximity with the individuals in your community right now and sitting with them and really understanding what are the problems here and what type of solution can I now offer because I'm better, and what type of solution would I offer because I have this ambition for myself to do it in a world-class way. All right, so quickly going through the knowledge, and then we're almost are there. So I want to share a quick permanence insight with you. Most entrepreneurs think, I want to make the business work, so I built a personal brand, and it boxes their brand in. I just jumped up. Okay, this is for how you want to think about that personal brand, right? That personal brand is really that person you are becoming. And when you think of that's actually fantastic that we just had this question. When you now think of that divorce business and you really dig deep on your role model self, you might, maybe, I don't know, right? But you might realize that, oh, it's a part of what I do. I actually more in general than help people with self-esteem or confidence or legal matters or whatever you see as in like where you actually want to go, how you want to unfold, that's the direction. Because your personal brand will be bigger than your business if you do it right. If you have a business alone, you have a vehicle that sells products and services. It is flexible but temporary, and it can disappear overnight. So maybe and please, I know that you're deeper integrated than that, and you've done so much work for your customers, so I don't think you're at risk. But there might be divorce solutions where soon we have software coming out that gives people all of the legal answers in this area, right? And we're not there with the eyes, like not reliable enough in legal matters whatsoever. But maybe it might come. Maybe there's a different solution, right? So the business of just helping people in that time, that can change. When you have your personal brand, we have this lasting perception of you. It's permanent and it's compounding and it carries you for every business. So when you pick your role model self, you want to, like I said, reach far and holistically enough so that you can work towards that for when business is shifting. People will still shift with you. So the best thing is when we have a business and the personal brand is woven together, and from your journey, you're creating the solutions for people. That might mean that your audience will change and expand for whichever solution you have right now. So for example, one part of the solutions I offer is together with Lara, the ICF in coaching certification. That doesn't have anything to do with school, but it's a part of my role model self and part of what I needed to learn and do, and it has become a part of my offer suite. And a part of my school audience, for example, also is interested in that product. So you more want to, instead of thinking of how do I serve and monetize this audience further, you want to say, who do I want to become? And from that journey, what are all the products I can break out of, right? So it's a different lens. It's like one is like, I have this business, I have my customer base. What else can I sell to them, right? Or how do I need to improve my offers towards them? And the other approach is like, who do I want to become? And what are all the solutions breaking down from it? And this has much more longevity and it gives you much more freedom and options and a much bigger leverage. Right. So when I lost this business, I told you about this. I didn't build a personal brand. So I had to start from scratch. Now, if I launch something, I never start from scratch again. I can, and I've sold different things to my audience. I can go in so many different directions that are all true for my role model self, and I will always have at least a part of my audience moving with me. And I know this because over the years I had people reach out for relationship advice. I had people, when I did the experience worker base camp, a part of it was documenting also a weight loss journey in there. I actually had people reaching out if I can help them with weight loss. And I was like, no, I don't have an offer around it. I don't have the qualifications around it. But if that was a part of my journey, I could actually offer that. And then I could mobilize a significant part of my audience to do this with me because I've grown my brand to a point, and I make it a point to keep growing my brand to a point where everything that makes sense that I want to do is relevant for at least a part of my audience, and it just makes sense. So I never have to start from zero again. And I am also super agile in our world because I can very quickly pivot to whatever makes sense based on my personal experience and journey. And that's what I want for you, because you can launch again and again, pivot faster, and stack new businesses. You can build a safe, which will be so important, guys, with the disruptions that we will have in the markets. You can build a safety net. You can leverage, you have leverage you carry wherever you go with the personal brand, right? So don't think, what else for this business? What else for this audience? What personal brand for this business? Think of like the personal brand and what products can be broken down from there. Feels much more sustainable and also actually is. So it de-risks yourself, makes you less vulnerable for things you can't control, and your options also compound over time while your risk drowns out over time. So it's a really, really long-term game. All right, and then we just have the last part of the vision board. Let me just check in one more time with you. Thank you, love. So the last part is the what else doesn't belong. So what we have here is all kinds of images and thoughts and intuitions and things you have saved from your consumption history that couldn't fit in anywhere, but for some reason you would feel regretful if you don't put it on the board. Right? So it's elements you can't explain why it feels important or where it fits in, but it's recurring symbols, motives, situations, patterns where you just know it needs some sort of addressing. It can also be wildcards. It can also be, actually, I always dreamed about making a kids fashion brand. I personally have not, but maybe, there's something like that on your mind and you do not know where it exactly fits in, but it's something that always keeps popping up. So you want to just make sure you also have it there. The reason why we want to do that is because your conscious mind categorizes. And your unconsciousness often knows things your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. So the images that resist explanation might actually be the most revealing ones. They might point to desires you haven't acknowledged, values you haven't articulated, or distractions you're being pulled at that you haven't consciously chosen to follow or not to follow. You want to give them space because you don't have to understand them just yet. You just want to get them out of your head, and so you feel like you really have a cohesive vision. What I find with these things is that it often does make complete sense and they can be integrated once I allow myself to be open enough to really listen to that role model self. Because that situation that we also just had right now, is like, or that I gave you as an example right now, I don't know enough about the specific situation, but I just see it as a recurring pattern is people, especially if you already have something that works at least a little bit, you get this feeling of, I need to hold on to it. I need to double, triple down on this. I need to grow that. And so it can feel very scary to take like that holistic picture and say, where do I actually want to go? And typically those things that are standing on the sidelines, often those are the exact breakthroughs, but we don't allow ourselves to lean into any capacity because we feel like, we're not good enough yet. We don't know enough yet. Who are we to think we can do this? And sometimes they need to sit there for a few months, maybe even a year, before you see like, oh, this is how this can be integrated. Or, it's something that carries symbolic value in another area, but you just have not been able to express it yet. So you want to put anything else, any person that still has charge for you, any product idea, any, oh, maybe I still want to try to go viral on Instagram, although it doesn't fit in anywhere. Or, oh, um, maybe I still want to make a board game for critical thinking, although it doesn't fit in anywhere, right? So you all of those things, or I don't know what it is about this person. I just always keep coming back to their content. I didn't even like them, right? So whatever it is, or there's something about my relationship that I have to look at, just can't put my finger, right? Whatever it is, allow it to have space there and see it as in things that might even fade away over time, or they might be integrated, or they might actually become a big part of your North Star. Just allow yourself to look at it from time to time, but also get them out of your head so they don't clog up any any capacity estate in here. Okay, a few contemplation prompts for here. When you have put those items there, you want to add what kept wanting to go on the board but didn't have a home. What would you regret leaving off, even if you can't explain why? Are there any recurring symbols, colors, motives across your search? Is there anything you're almost embarrassed to include? Also, a really good clue. So these are often really important. I find like when it's that I'm embarrassed to include it, it's often this like I actually really want this, but I don't think I can get it, so I don't want to say it because when I said it, and even if it was just to myself that this is what I want, if I then don't get it, I would feel like I failed. Right? So often those are the dreams that are almost too big for us to admit it. And then they can just live there. We can just be true to ourselves. Okay, so these are all the sections of the vision board. If you kind of want to follow the methodology, all of the things to think through if you want to build a personal brand based business where you monetize your personal growth journey, productize it. And when you have filled in the vision board, which I would highly encourage you to take some time to do it, then what you want to do next is you want to step away, right? So let it sit a little bit and then come back with fresh eyes. And you want to notice the overall impression and see what's your first feeling when you see it. What colors do dominate? What's the overall energy? And does it feel like your role model self? Where does it feel like it? And then what you want to do is you can either take a screenshot of your vision board and put it into AI, or you can also just, do it from what arises. You want to maybe write down a few things that come to mind. Like, what words would you use to describe this board? What topics or areas of life appear in multiple sections? What values seem to underpin the choices you have made? What surprises you about what emerged? And what's missing that you expected to see? Right? So very often we also think that we are on a trajectory, but if we actually closely look into the things we consume, the things we care about, they actually don't appear. And then we can ask ourselves, is this something I forgot? Or is this something I am putting on myself because of expectations that are not mine? Right? So take a step back, reflect a little bit on your board. Like I said, you can take a screenshot of your board, paste it into AI, and let it give you a few answers, and then you can just react to the answers if you want to do some scaffolding techniques there to save some mental capacity. You can also put this in the AI. Who is your role model self? Based on everything you've gathered, describe your role model self, not their achievements. Who are they as a person? How do they carry themselves? What do they value? How do they spend their time? What's their relationship with work, rest, relationships? What makes them them? So you can again paste your vision board and have AI answer those questions. Let me give you an example of how to do that. Like I said, mine is quite personal, also across relationships, etc., which is why I wanted to protect it. But I'm just giving like a vision board, like a general one. Or I can use one that I already shared in the past that I did specifically to be able to share publicly as well. And I can show you how to use AI to get that answer. That was something different. Okay. So I'm just taking a screenshot. You can head to ChatGPT or to Claude. I love to work with Claude so much. And then you can use this section from the vision board and say, please answer these questions for me after analyzing my vision board. Just be mindful, right, of privacy settings. When you use AI in this way, you have to be okay with it reading your vision board. So, if you maybe don't include pictures of yourself if you don't want to upload them, or your kids, or sensitive data, right? So just know it will take part of it in its training data. So you want to be mindful, but if you're okay with it, which I am in this case, then you can use it. She's not driven by urgency, comparison, da da da. So I would then just record myself and I would react to it. And then you can also do the same, like across either multiple chats or multiple AI models, because they will give you different answers. And then you can synthesize, just giving feedback, what actually feels true to you. And you can add what feels like it is missing. So also when you have been using those chats for a while, they kind of have some partial memory at least about you. So they will also tailor it to you. So it will even more kind of hit the nail on its head. And then I would just go through this and I would react to it, record myself a flume and see what's coming up. And I would correct it where it's wrong and I would affirm it where it's right. So you can come kind of to a final hypothesis, but also know that this, again, it's dynamic, right? So don't think like you have to get this perfect directional correctness. Okay, and then you can also, of course, to this now answer these for me. So that's how you can make this work a little bit easier for you. And then you optionally can also answer those. What I now know about myself that I didn't fully see before, what I know now about what I'm building, what surprised me or shifted me. And then we already talked about this. You might want to find a token, right? Whether it's a piece of jewelry, it's a mug, it's a coin, whatever it is that is your token. Try to find a token that connects you with it. And you can even also, use if you have the physical planner, you can bring the best elements from the vision board in here. And maybe your planner is your token, right? So maybe you just want to have the planner as the token. Lara gave us such a beautiful idea of also spraying the perfume, right? Or pairing it with music. You just want to have some sort of physical representation and process to revisit the version of yourself. So what you've created is then a complete context library for yourself and for any work you do with AI for the creation of your product, of your content, for the growth, for the creation of your business strategies, for your business planning, that clarifies how you approach business growth, personal growth, and challenges, who you are becoming, what an ordinary day looks like, who guides you, and how you filter advice, your transformation, where you've been and where you're going, what you're building, your business, your community, aka audience, and legacy, and the things that matter but resist categorization. Okay, and so we use this as a foundation for our further business planning. So we will go from here through the challenge and break it all the way down. Sorry. We break it all the way down based on the planner. I'll quickly show you how we will move through the days. Let me just. Every day of the following challenge, the video will be maximum 10 minutes. So you really translate your vision board into action. I'm going to show you this here now. This is what we do over the next 7 days. Like I said, I'm not putting it on YouTube, but I'm putting it in the free community that is also linked in the description. So that is our challenge planner. And what we're going to do is based on the vision board that we built today, following the planner, we will first learn on the first day my exact planning process for business planning. Then we will revisit the role model self, consolidate it in form of a letter. From there, we will plan out your offers in audience growing, money-making offers, following a clear framework. Then we'll build your conversion corridor. So how people find, trust you, buy from you, and then receive transformation. Then we will define your bottlenecks. On day 6, we will action plan. So we will make a 6 months vision, 90-day priority, monthly focus, and then we'll define projects. And then on day 7, we will use the daily self-management worksheet, which smartly enough, I don't have here right now. That's the second part of my physical product. Let me just quickly show you. And like I said, you don't have to have the physical product. You get this planner in there as well for all of the days. And you get the daily self-management worksheet also here in a simplified digital form. But this is how it basically translates then back into what do I actually do on a day-to-day basis. Murder on the Titanic. So this is the second part then, the daily self-management worksheet. That's the translation then of, again, what do we do on the day-to-day basis to make it happen? Okay. All right, I think this is what I had for you today. Let me see how you're feeling. It's like Steve Jobs' quote, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. 100%. I fully agree. I'm building a gentle faith through the creative century for women. Slow down, listen for God, and grow into His vision for their lives through ordinary faithfulness, beauty, and community. What a beautiful mission statement. Thanks, Evelyn. I found this workshop really beneficial as base for 2026. Can't wait for the challenge. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you for having been on with me. If you are in the community already, if you want to share something from your vision board, if you want to share a key insight that you had from the challenge, from the workshop, I appreciate any feedback that you have for me. From tomorrow, I'll release the daily videos, basically with the practice on every single day. You can follow along in the community. In the communities, we will have the business planning challenge that ties in then with a parallel school launch challenge. So basically how I've planned it out is we have the 7-day planner for the business planning. So this is just if you don't have anything to do with school, you don't want to build a community, it's completely fine. We're just going through after the vision workshop, how do you plan your business out for 2026, all the way till you have your daily actions. This is 10-minute a day videos with short actions that you need to take. And this basically is your complete business plan then for 2026. If you have the physical planner and the physical worksheets, it's a little bit more comprehensive, but you can already have your business plan out with this as well, right? And parallel to this, I have the challenge running that is for each day teaching you how to then build it as a business on school if that's what you want to, right? So it's completely optional. The school parts I cannot keep under 10 minutes, but I really have tried my very, very best to make it as short as possible. Really good if you don't have if you want to start a business on school, or if you want to relaunch because you feel stuck with it and you want to relaunch from that role model approach. And you also want to just see how does it translate into practice of building this. And for those of you that don't want to necessarily create their offers in school, I will also add in the growers community, but only after the workshop is done, because I don't want to, only after the challenge is done, because I don't want to spam you with too much content. I will also add for you how to create offers that are not necessarily school offers, which we have in this workshop here, where it's the productizing your experience, right? So I will unlock, this is a 45-minute with templates, etc. For those of you that don't use school, for those of you that use school, I highly recommend following the parallel challenge, because the offer types is exactly tailored to school as well. And the school challenge will be available for free as well in this community, in the growers community, for the live days. And after that, I'll put it into Grow with Evelyn, which is my regular school community here. And this one is paid. It's $33 a month. but it has a 7-day free trial. So if you're following the school challenge as well and you cannot finish it in the 7 days that it's live, you can still finish it with the free trial, and then you can also risk-free check this out. And if you don't like it, you can cancel before the trial ends, right? If you want that. But you'll get the business planning challenge ongoing access just in the growth community for free, and the school challenge is parallel if you're interested in that. All right. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that you've been on with me. Any final last words from you? I'd love any insights. How do you feel right now? That's maybe my biggest question. How do you feel? What came up for you? You feel excited? You feel slightly overwhelmed? Did something spark for you? I would love to know. Energized, that's a good one. Energized is really good. Thank you so much. Thank you for having been on with me as well for so long. All right, I can't wait to see some of your work and your feedback in the growth community. And yeah, thank you so much. I wish you a beautiful, successful, blessed 2026. Bye for now.